released by the DA, which shows the burning of the South African flag has received mixed reactions from the public and opposition parties. Political analyst Enoch Maponya says the IEC should take steps against the DA. He says no one is allowed to play with the national flag.
I don't think there are very few people who will actually understand what they were trying to achieve. And that is why a lot of people are going to condemn this, and even the voters are going to show their displeasure during elections. Instead of gaining votes, they are going to lose a lot of votes from that exercise.
There may be evidence that Jabulani Khumalo, who registered the MK party last year, handed over the party's leadership to former President Jacob Zuma last month. The SABC has seen a letter dated April the 9th in which Khumalo told the Electoral Commission that he had resigned as the MK party leader and stated that Zuma would take over as leader and would be the face of the party. The letter precedes a recent one dated the 5th of this month in which Khumalo requests the Commission to urgently remove Zuma as the face of the party. And City Power says the replacement of burnt and stolen cables along the M1 near Braamfontein in Joburg is expected to be completed by the end of the day. This after firefighters battled an underground blaze last week after about 300 meters of underground cable was stolen. The fire resulted in power outages in Parktown, Newtown, Braamfontein, the Joburg CBD and surrounding areas. City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena.
The local power utility team successfully removed the rubble and cleaned the tunnels where fire destroyed the electricity infrastructure. It took 2 days to complete the work of clearing the debris due to the extensive nature of the damage caused by the underground fire along the M1 near Smith Street and the double-decker section in Braamfontein.
Recapping the top story, family members of workers trapped underneath the rubble of a collapsed building at George in the Western Cape say they are still waiting for confirmation on whether their loved ones have been recovered or not. For SAFM News,
And coming up in your sports this hour, junior box lose to Australia in under-20 rugby championship. Tinkler has faith that City can turn things around, and female referee to make Bok history in Bloemfontein. I'll tell you more on that at 3:30.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
For the first time in 30 years, the ANC is set to lose its majority. Opposition parties have united as the multi-party charter for South Africa.
A strong democratic alliance with a proven track record
Can anchor a new government that serves the people.
But a new government that works is only possible if you vote for it. Let's unite and rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
TV licenses have developed a new GIS-linked national address database to ensure that we can communicate with all our valued license holders. We now have a visual of all licensed and unlicensed households nationwide in order to effectively communicate with you. We remind you to take note of our payment reminders and avoid paying penalties due to non-compliance or choosing to ignore your legal obligation to pay your license fees. We can communicate with all our license holders through cost-effective electronic methods, enabling us to collect license fees and continue to support the national broadcaster, the SABC, in accordance with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act No. 4 of 1999 as amended. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Now, let me say this about the DA advert, okay? For the so many people that are shocked, aghast, disappointed, infuriated at the one party that has used a burning flag to depict a country falling apart, well, you'd be justified in many ways for being angry, okay, at that. But think for another moment about another party that has governed South Africa for 30 years, that ultimately are directly responsible for some of the many issues, just leave aside the issue of the flag, some of the many issues that you'd be disappointed with. You'd be disappointed and angered and aghast at so many things like failing service delivery, poor schooling, pit latrines, high rates of crime, murder, gender-based violence, and issues that effectively undermine our lives and our ability to express ourselves and reach the fullest potential. What am I saying here? What I'm saying is that you can be disappointed and angry with the advert. You can also be disappointed and angry with the actual conditions. It's not an either or. You actually can be both. Because ultimately, in all of that, let's not lose sight of the fact that the buck stops with the people who ultimately lead the country. And that's something you and I need to consider. I'm Ashraf Garda, and that's my point.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's get going to another show of the National Pulse, and certainly great that you're a part of it. You have a sense of the feel of the pulse, and just about every single day there's things that impact on everything we do. Of course, we'll talk later on about the developments around that collapse, that horrific story of the collapsed building in George. We will touch on that, and Chad going to the polls, and we get another take, an expert's opinion on that DA burning flag advert that I've just spoken about as well. But you can engage with me, as always. You know that in multiple ways. Probably the best way to do that is in WhatsApp. That's a voice note or text form to 0614 104 107, and you can call into 086 000 2032. And perhaps as you wish to comment even now, you may want to comment about the point I've just made, that it's not an either or. You can be angry with the flag burning. You can also be angry with the absence of service delivery in the country. You can be angry with both. You can choose to say it's not an either or. Both upsets me. And what then do you want to do about that? Okay. So your comments on that are most welcome. However, let's get to one of the biggest issues that has developed overnight, and that's the issue of the MK party and the situation about who leads the party. You may have seen earlier this morning reports played out on social media, on the Twitter or the X platform in particular, that suggested that the Jabulani Khumalo, and this is all very, very complicated, a person who the allegation was expelled by the MK party, who then has taken it upon himself to suspend the current leader of the MK party, which would be Jacob Zuma. Now that story still develops. We're going to get different angles on that one and what that really means for the party. But very significantly, we find just a couple of hours ago, in fact, the IEC coming back and confirming, according to them, that they certainly will not get into spats internally between a party, as is not their business, and I think that makes sense. However, they can confirm that the leader of the party, in terms of their understanding of who's the registered leader at this point in time, is Jacob Zuma, and that's how they will deal with it. That in response to one of the issues that the request was made by Jabulani Khumalo, that Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, who currently heads up the party in terms of his image, that his image now be removed as party leader, so not being the face of the party. So that's what the IEC are saying. Let's get the thoughts of the MK party with their national spokesperson, Dlamulo Ndlela. Good chatting to you. It seems like we chat every few days because your party is very much in the news.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. Right. Okay. First of all, give us a broad understanding of the developments of the last few hours, because there's been so much.
Ashraf, we, for the first time, saw a letter in the form of a picture. And actually, it was a picture showing a letter. And that's how we looked at it, and that's how we took it. It's a picture with a letter in it that was reported to have been sent to ourselves, as well as Zuma, as well as the IEC. We had no formal submission, or there's no recollection of a formal letter being sent to us by Jabulani Khumalo. And to date, until now, we've not received that formal letter that we see circulating in social media platforms.
Okay.
The only time we were able to confirm was when the IEC stated that they received the letter that, again, was circulating in that picture that's shown.
Okay, so first things first, when the IEC confirmed that they were in receipt of a letter indicating by Jabulani Khumalo that the person who's the image of the party right now, that face must be removed, what was your response at that time?
You got cut off. You're saying what was that?
What was the response from your party at that time when the IEC confirmed that they were in receipt of a letter?
Well, our response, we're always comfortable knowing very well that Jabulani Khumalo himself released a letter that he had signed, removing himself, which was part of the agreement from the onset that at the right time he'd have to make way as party registered leader at the IEC. And make way for President Zuma and be replaced by President Zuma, including his face, what ought to have been his face initially, or how we presented it, that it was going to be his face, for obvious reasons, because we had so many of these adversaries, as you'd have seen in all these court cases. So it was a timing matter. Jabulani Khumalo has just given a responsibility to just go and register a party, and he sent the letter, and President Zuma is the party leader, and that's why the IEC confirms that no one else can communicate with the IEC except President Zuma.
Okay, so the point I'm making is this: were you at all concerned? And I'm looking at the process when the IEC confirmed they were in receipt of the letter. Were you, as the MK party, were you at all concerned that the IEC may come back and say, "We're in receipt of this letter, and we need to look into what the position now is, and we may consider or reconsider the face of the party"? Were you concerned about it all, or did you dismiss that immediately, knowing that from a legality there was no case?
Look, Jabulani Khumalo's actions are just a confirmation that we've been right all along about this individual, and that's why we made sure that everything was in place, which was in any case nothing cloak and dagger or underhanded. It was a collective decision, and that decision was taken, and he got replaced. And we knew that we were on solid ground because we followed the due process as per the IEC regulations and processes and procedures.
Okay.
So, regardless of whatever the IEC was going to say, we knew that the IEC was going to make the right call and the correct call, which is that indeed President Zuma is the leader and he's the only one that can change or do anything as it pertains to the party.
Okay, so as it stands, Jacob Zuma now is the face of the party, and the election comes up in a few weeks' time. Right now, the broader issue then is the competitiveness and the ability of the MK party to deliver effectively to your voters, to convince them to vote for you. One of the issues that's come through all day today, this morning, was like, this is a spat the MK party can do without. This just undermines the MK party's ability to convince the electorate to vote for them. Are you not concerned about that? Do we have you there? We may have just lost Ntlamulo. I think we may have just lost him for a moment. Let's see if we can reconnect with him. By the way, lots of people connecting and commenting on my point that's my point opening about that you can be angry with the flag burning, which I certainly am been disappointed, but you can also be disappointed with the conditions that prevail in the country. So it's not an either or. I think we do have Ntlamulo Ndlela back on the line. You there, right?
I'm right here.
Yeah, okay, we lost you for a second. My point I was making was that there's been so much talk today about what of the future of the MK party in terms of its ability to convince the electorate to vote for them, considering these spats that appear to be taking place, they are taking place between the effective leadership of the party. Whoever is in charge now or was in charge is really neither here nor there. The more important one is that it's sending out the wrong message. How do you respond to that?
No, I think the first point is to, quell, or should I say correct, you saying it's spats. The IEC didn't mention spats in their letter. They said they want to be involved in political party matters. So this is not a spat, it's not a crisis. All political parties have got dynamics that they have to deal with. In actual fact, the electorate and the conscious voter should be more confident that Mkhonto Sizwe as a leadership will not allow any form of rogue activities, any degenerates, or any individual that aims to undermine what we're trying to achieve in the form of a two-third majority. And that we'll root and weed out any such activities or any such individuals that will be associated with Mkhonto Sizwe and doing wrong. And this is exactly what has happened here. Mkhonto Sizwe leadership took a united decision, a collective decision, that we cannot allow, based on the report that was presented to Jabulani Khumalo, such activities to be rife and to be present in our organization. So that should give the electorate and any citizen that wants to vote for Mkhonto Sizwe that even when we're in government, we will not allow any corrupt, any activities that service delivery, that undermine governance, that undermines the rights of South Africans.
Well, I mean, that point is taken, so whether we talk spat or whether we're talking about undermining even the party, I hear that, right? But the point I want to make is this, that between Jacob Zuma on the one hand and Jabulani Khumalo on the other, both have been, up to now, significant players in the leadership of the party. And without even contesting their first election, they clearly are now poles apart, and the message that I'm saying is being communicated is an inability to hold the centre together. Now we've had an example with regard to COPE a long time ago, and before then it was really in a position to take advantage of the weaknesses of the ruling party. They undermined themselves, and that's the point I want to bring forward to you. I mean, how concerned are you about that?
No, firstly, you're wrong by putting Jabulani Khumalo at the same level as President Zuma. I mean, they're worlds apart. It's North Pole and South Pole. And for you to then say that he played a significant leadership role, everyone as a volunteer, and we're all volunteers, played a significant role. Just because he registered the party doesn't give him an upper hand over anyone else. So let's clarify that and clear that. When it comes to other political parties and what they experienced when they were initially established, that's their own experience. As Mkhonto Sizwe, and that's why we've received such a resounding response, because people trust President Zuma. And to date, we're saying that they can continue to trust President Zuma, they can continue to trust us as a leadership, because we'll make the right decisions if it means we have to protect this organization. And this is exactly what's happened in this case, in the case of Jabulani Khumalo.
Okay,
we had to make a decision.
Right.
This decision was for the right reasons, and for the advancement of the people's mandate.
Right. In 15 seconds, again, for those who are now skeptical about the MK party because of what has happened, what would you tell them in 15 seconds?
People that want to, sorry?
People who are skeptical about investing their vote in the MK party, what would you tell them in 15 seconds?
I would tell them not to listen to Ashraf mentioning words such as spat and skeptical. What I would say is that Mkhonto Sizwe is a party that is resolute in ensuring that there's change in this country, to ensuring that we, through a person who's wise and who has seen it before and who has been able to demonstrate that the end of load shedding, demonstrate that there can be water, demonstrate that there can be free education, demonstrate that crime can be brought down, and demonstrate that poverty can be ended.
All right.
And that's in the form of President Zuma.
And that's right. We're going to leave it, and let's see what the public and the electorate decides on May 29. Thank you for your time, as always, Ntlamulo Ndlela, the MK National Party spokesperson.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers, for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Getting more money into your pockets has never been this simple and exciting. With SABC's new Simple Watch and Win game show, you can get more Zaga in your pockets. Catch more Zaga every weekday on SABC1 at 9 p.m. You could win your share of 50,000 Rand. All you have to do to win is give the correct answer for the day. Just dial *120 *33 to hash to register and play. The cost is R1.50 per minute. You could win big with more Zaga. Only on SABC1.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
The 600,000 people who were arrested, I mean, what happened to them afterwards? I presume almost all of them will have been released since they were arrested.
Not all have been released. It's quite encouraging that for murder, we still have 4,610 in custody. For attempted murder, we've got 4,217. For rape, we've got 7,052 still in police custody. We've had a number of convictions also during that time. I can confirm to you that for murder, those that got life sentences, we are talking about 161. Rape, we had 417 during that period that got handed down life sentences.
Okay.
20 years and longer, we have a number of suspects as well that have been convicted for various crimes.
Brigadier Linda Matep, thank you very much indeed. National spokesperson for the South African Police Service.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we're going to get to talking about the goings on in Chad in just a moment, but we've had comments on that's my point, opening point about two ways to look at the flag burning issue, and here's one that I think you may want to consider.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You're speaking to Sfiso in Durban, Isipingo. You know the problem. You can't just burn a flag of a national nation. Then you told yourself that there is something you're going to achieve. What is the aim of TA to ban the flag? They must clarify to the South African why they ban the flag, the national flag of South Africa. I don't think that the TA will achieve a lot of voters, especially the black voters. They'll never understand what the TA was trying to do. The TA has to do something and apologize in front of the people. To ban the flag of South Africa, it means that you don't care about this country if you ban the flag. Thank you, Ashraf.
Well, look, to a large degree, many may agree with you. Me too. I certainly do not like it that the flag is burnt no matter what. The point I'm making is that in that symbol, there's also lots of other things that are wrong with the country. Are we just as angry about that? Think about that. Now, the apartheid government was so afraid of Beyers Naudé that for 7 years, it banned him from being in a room with more than one other person. But in 1994, he voted in the country's first democratic election and worked hard to help previously disenfranchised people do the same. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust's Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honour Naudé's memory by exercising the right he fought so hard for, the right to vote. #Remember Me.
Are you tired of the same old politics? Ready for a fresh perspective? Then it's time to make a change with Al Jama'ah. We're not just another party. We're a movement for progress and unity. With a focus on social justice, economic empowerment, and inclusive governance, Al Jama'ah is committed to building a brighter future for all South Africans. So in this election, vote for real change. Vote Al Jama'ah, a political platform for all communities, and experience that Al Jama'ah effect.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Well, you may be aware that in parts of Central Africa and West Africa, there's been a series of junta-ruled countries, and there's been coups, a wave of coups, in fact, impacting on that region. Now, Chad, right, has just become the very first of those countries in that region to hold elections since those waves of coups, right? The interim president, Mohamed Idris Deby, is widely expected to win the vote. He replaced his father, remember, the helm of this nation 3 years ago. He's remained close with the former colonial power and long-time longtime ally France, which also is very, very topical, considering how many other countries view the former colonial power. Let's try and understand what's really going on there with Dr. William Jethro Impofu, who's a political analyst and senior research associate at the Good Governance Africa. Dr. Impofu, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Right. So how significant is it that Chad now actually has an election?
It is fundamentally significant because the concern with the beginning and the escalation of all the series of coups that were witnessed in that part of Africa was, are the soldiers going to return these African countries to democratic rule, to rule by the vote, rule by the ballot, not the bullet? Because when a coup happens, the soldiers actually get out of the constitution of the country and that jurisdiction and that sovereignty to change regime. After that, what is expected progressively is that the soldiers hand over power, sovereignty, and jurisdiction to democratic rule, to the rule of civilians, the rule of the constitution. So it has been a going on question, are the soldiers in that part of the African continent going to respect constitution and democratic rule after all? So here is a sample for us to observe if this is going to happen or not. That's how significant the election in Chad is.
Well, often you have a military coup with the intention of actually repairing a damaged country, and then often the military then never relinquishes power and they never return to democracy, and that happens in many, many cases, right? So this would be, has it surprised you at all?
That's the question that's crossing every serious African's mind. Are we, after all, going to witness a genuine process of the military handing over power to civilian rule, to constitutional rule, to democratic rule? And that is a question that is yet to be answered by time, yet to be answered by events, and yes, yet to be answered by incidents that might develop in the next hour, the next second hour, or the next third hour.
And the fact that the incumbent or interim president, in this case Mohamed Idris Deby, who led the coup, is expected to win the election, would that be considered a safe bet anyway? Because they have the advantage of being the incumbent.
Exactly, the privilege and the power that incumbents have has always been to do with how they deploy national resources, how they deploy public funds, and how they use the power that they hold to persuade, to pressure, and even to coerce the electorate. There's a way in which incumbents come into the electoral race, into the competitive political space with certain privileges and powers that cannot be ignored if we are looking for fairness, if we are looking for freeness of that particular vote, of that particular election.
And lastly, what would you be looking out for? What sign would you be looking out for coming out of this election?
We want to witness as Africans peace, the absence of physical violence, and the satisfaction and happiness of the people of Chad.
Okay. Let's hope that happens. Appreciate your time, Dr. William Jethro Impofu, political analyst and senior research associate at the Good Governance Africa organization. Let's now get to the news headlines with Madupi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says that police officers should never involve themselves in politics. He says they need to be apolitical and neutral at all times. Family members of workers trapped underneath the rubble of a collapsed building at George in the Western Cape say they are still waiting for confirmation on whether their loved ones have been recovered or not. And Vladimir Putin has been sworn in for another 6-year term as Russian president at an opulent Kremlin ceremony, formally extending his quarter-of-a-century rule over Russia. Details of these and other stories coming up at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 westbound in Crown has delays towards Main Reef Road. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown interchange. The R59 northbound in Alberton is queuing traffic near Michelle Avenue exit and Bears Nadir Drive in Fairland as a truck rush reported, as well as a lost load at the N1 northbound ramp. The ramp has been closed off to road users. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a truck rush just before Marion Hill Plaza. The road's closed, so expect delays. The M13 eastbound in Hillcrest is queuing towards Cassie Road exit, and that's due to motorists diverting from the N3 highway closure. The M13 is queuing through central Pinetown, and the M4 has roadworks with traffic restrictions at Tongard Beach, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The M3 Philip Hossana Drive outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuberg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, we have the Springboks and we have the Junior Springboks.
A good afternoon to you and good afternoon to our listeners. Yes, we do start things off with the Junior Springboks, who went down 24-19 to Australia in the Under-20 Rugby Championship today. The result means that South Africa bottom of the log with one game left against Argentina, putting an end to South Africa's chances of winning the competition. Meanwhile, Stormers star Sabelo Senatla is back in training after a career-threatening car crash last year. The 31-year-old suffered serious muscle and nerve damage to his arm during the accident in May 2023. And then the prognosis was that he would need to overcome mountains to be back in action. And now he looks well on course. He took part in a full training session with the Stormers yesterday as they prepare for back-to-back URC clashes against Dragons and Connacht. In football, DStv Premiership action returns tonight, and Cape Town City coach Eric Tinkler says that he won't change his philosophy against Morocco Swallows tonight in order to end their winless start to the 2024 and Tinkler's side drop out of contention for CAF Champions League football as they have failed to win a single game this year. Now, the Mother City outfit are 14 points drift of Stellenbosch in 7th place with 4 fixtures remaining in the 2023-24 season, although Tinkler believes that they just one win away from turning the corner. Another team in action is Royal AM, and they are facing struggling side Cape Town Spurs, while Kaizer Chiefs are looking to be in that top 8 against TS Galaxy, and Skukuni United are away to Supersport United. In the meantime, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Rulani Mokoena says that finishing the 2023-24 DStv Premiership season unbeaten will not make up for the CAF Champions League heartbreak. The Brazilians have already been crowned league champions for a 7th successive time with 6 games to spare, and they are to suffer a single defeat. However, Mokoena insists that he would much rather have preferred Downs' progress to the Continental Tournament final than preserve the domestic record.
No, I'm still reeling, and I'm talking personally. I am still reeling. Someone tried to console me and said to me, "You've got a double already. You've got the AFL and you've got the league title. So why are you still reeling?" But I'm reeling. I must say to you, I feel like I've let the club down. I feel like I've let the supporters down.
He's an overachiever of note.
Well, you'd want someone like that to coach you, don't you?
Absolutely, not someone like Erik ten Hag. But talking about Erik ten Hag, former Manchester United players believe that ten Hag has run out of time at the club in the wake of yesterday's 4-0 drubbing by Crystal Palace. United's record 13th league defeat of the campaign left them 8th and facing the prospect of having no European football next season. They've conceded 81 goals in all competitions, their worst showing since the 1976-77 season. And former Manchester United forward Michael Owen says that Ten Hag is simply not good enough.
Sat here for quite a while, I've been saying that Ten Hag is just not the right man for this job. I've been saying it for ages and ages. He simply cannot manage the team next season. But I almost wonder now, they've got a cup final and they've got a few important games that could mean European football next year or not. And at some point you've got to make a decision, right, well, There's nothing. They're going to get absolutely hammered by Manchester City. They're going to get annihilated. In fact, Arsenal will smash them to bits at Old Trafford. Newcastle will probably beat them, and I wouldn't even fancy them going to Brighton either. They might not get anything out the rest of the season if they're playing like that. And I just wonder, with so much at stake, even though it's only for 4 games, I wonder whether the board might just have to try to do something here and now and be quite radical about it. I'm not sure. But he simply cannot manage this team next season. He's not good enough.
I hate the fact that he's telling the truth.
Well, don't hate it. That's a good start.
Well, we'll see if he'll remain as the manager of Manchester United or not. In basketball, San Antonio Spurs star Victor Wembanyama has been named NBA Rookie of the Year. The 20-year-old is the first Frenchman to win the award after averaging 21.4 points and 10.6 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and a league-high 3.6 block shots and 1.2 steals a game. And he's the first and unanimous Rookie of the Year since Karl Anthony Towns in 2016. Anything's off with women in sports. Referee Holly Davidson will become the first woman to take charge of a test involving the Springboks when the Boks host Portugal for the first time in a test in Bloemfontein in July. The 31-year-old already made history earlier this year when she was an assistant referee during the Six Nations match between England and Wales at Twickenham. So a big congratulations to Davidson. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm doing
Thank you. And I tell you what, just by the way, you don't have to comment now, but just seeing the relay team getting ready, qualifying for the Olympics and getting ready for the Olympics, well, I'm excited.
Support Slipper Day on the 31st of May and help children like me fighting life-threatening illnesses to reach their dreams. Visit reachfordream.org.za and make a difference. And don't forget to step into your slippers on Slipper Day. Reach for a Dream, inspiring hope. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Durban is yet again ready to welcome thousands of delegates and buyers who will be attending the Africa Travel Indaba at the Durban ICC from 13th to 16th May. The Indaba, that attracts delegates from across the globe, is the continent's leading travel showpiece. Hosting events of this magnitude continues to position Durban as a business and holiday destination of choice. Durban Tourism, together with community tourism organizations and local businesses, are eager to showcase that indeed Durban has more to offer. Durban is on the move. Join us at stand DEC 1G50. Durban is Africa's leading festival and event destination according to the World Travel Awards 2023.
Welcome to the game of life. At kickoff, it's 0-0. What you do next decides the result. Make a good decision, you're ahead. Make a mistake, you're chasing. You need a good plan and a great team behind you. Find that team at lifeofconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Live with confidence. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services and registered credit provider.
EFC is live this Thursday. 2 grappling wizards will battle it out for the vacant welterweight title at EFC 113 as Gelson Souza and Zakir Banat fight it out for championship glory. Plus, Faiz Jacobs is out for revenge against the great Sylvester Chifumbu for #1 contendership. EFC 113 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Well, you have a feel for the national pulse, I'm sure you do, and maybe tell me where you are, wherever you may be in the country. Always great to know where you are, and if you can, great to send a picture. You can tweet it out using that X platform, so just tag us on SFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda, but also just WhatsApp's absolutely fine to 0614 104 107 with a picture and the dial locked into SFM wherever you may be in the country. We're going to get another take on that DA advert that we touched on yesterday. But we'll take some calls because, I've made comments about it earlier on just now, right? So, Kandisa, let's get your thoughts. Hi, Kandisa.
Afternoon, Asas. How are you?
I'm good indeed. So I made my point. What's yours?
Look, man, Asas, it is good for South Africans to criticize this governing party. But we have to remember what this democracy is all about. Because, Ashraf, I cannot allow you, as a representative, to say ANC has not done anything for 30 years. Our people, they know ANC has built houses for them, and ANC has done a lot for them. Children are eating at school. You see, people are busy. We understand the situation now as ANC. And this will overcome these problems. But this issue of when a DA ban a democratical flag is an insult to the citizens of this country, especially people who fought for this country so hard. You see?
Okay.
DA, we understand the background of the DA. You see, it's not about the issue of service delivery to our people. It's not about hatred. DA, they use apartheid system to destroy whatever the governing party is doing.
Well, I don't know. Okay,
it's not right.
Kandisa, we're going to move on. I mean, here's the thing. Your point is made. I'm saying, when you're saying you can't allow me to say, I'm just saying to you that I have a problem with the DA burning of the flag. Just so that, I made it very clear. I do not like that one bit. Not at all, okay? But I'm also saying, as we are aghast and angry at the burning of the flag, we can also be angry at the lack of service delivery on multiple issues. Now, you've made the point that the ANC, you can't allow me to not deny the fact that the ANC has done a lot. All I'm going to say is, I don't have to say much. Listen to what the president of the ANC right now is saying about the current ANC and what they need to do to be able to convince the electorate. That's all I have to say. Just listen to what Ramaphosa says about the ANC, and you'll understand that they themselves understand they've fallen short on many, many occasions. It's not a case of what they've done. It's where they've fallen short. Thanks for that call. Appreciates that. And again, I'm absolutely fine with people agreeing and disagreeing with some of the points I make, and like the diversity, I think it's important because ultimately we then get a good, true sense of the pulse of the nation. Solly Moang is with me now. Two things with Solly. He's now a member of Action SA, the political party, but he's also a brand reputation management strategist. And Solly had a view, as per the conversation I had with Tebe Kalafeng yesterday, that he felt that we or Tebe Kalafeng is being too critical of that advert, and he thinks the advert is spot on. And we thought, between myself and the production team, well, let's get Solly's opinion and let's give him a chance to say what he thinks from the merits of the advert and the message that comes across. So, Solly, good chatting to you, and you're live on the National Pulse.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much, and to your listeners, Ashraf.
Thank you.
I listened to you yesterday, and I listened to you kind of balance your take on this thing today. The country is in pain, and the thing is, because we're heading towards elections, and there's too much emotion in this thing. Everybody seems to be wanting to talk from the perspective of a political party. From a brain strategist perspective, there's nothing wrong with what the DA is saying. The majority is not always all this anger that I'm hearing from many people.
But Solly, tell us why, because that's what we want to talk to you about. So look at the advert here. Tell me about the advert what you see.
I saw the ad. The DA has. The thing is, if this ad has been run by another party, a so-called black party, I'm sure the response would have been different. The country is in turmoil. The country is burning. The DA is portraying the country, the symbol of the party of the country, which is as in pain, turmoil, burning. There's nothing wrong with that. Now I've seen people throw the apartheid back into the DA. It's a white thing. It's nonsense. I would have done the same thing. The country is in trouble, and I think it's fine to depict the country in trouble in the way that the DA has done. I think the emotions that are being thrown into these things don't make sense to me. It's an amazing, powerful symbol, but because it comes from a DA, it's a racist thing, it's an apartheid thing. It's nonsense, and everything The ANC has, you're saying now, the ANCs, we must listen to the president, he recognizes that they've done wrong. It's nonsense. The ANC president, even Ramaphosa, even Zuma has been recognizing that they've done things wrong, many things wrong. But they're not changing anything, okay? We cannot be ANC apologists at the expense of our country. Our country is burning, and people who are otherizing, and I'm not a member of the DA, you know that.
Well, you're part of the Action SA, right? I'm making that point.
It doesn't matter, but I'm talking as a brand strategist, and that's how you invited me to. Okay,
absolutely.
To continue otherizing white people or the DA or everything it touches, it means it's racist. It comes from race. It's nonsense. The country is in trouble. Okay, you get a look at the state of South Africa entirely. And the people who come in and say, "Oh, the ANC has done some good things." Look at the net effect of where South Africa is today.
Solly, so can I just interject you because we're going to run out of time? I'm saying to you, as many have said, there are hundreds of things that the ruling party has done wrong. I think that's a given. That's clear for all to see. That's why I've said. Yesterday, my point was on the elder attacking Kgalema Motlanthe about where have you been. It's clear, right? What I'm interested in is in articulating the DA's position as to what they see that's wrong in the country. They've used the burning flag. Now that's what I'm interested in from your point of view. Somebody who understands brand. Is the burning flag not, by its very nature, going to be sensationalist, going to draw a response, and can be seen by many people as just outrightly the wrong thing to do, even though the merits of the communication is correct?
We live in a country where if I or Zuma or Ramaphosa or somebody else was to say something because we are black, we can get away with it. When a white South African says the same thing, we throw apartheid and racism and white monopoly, capitalism and all that stuff at them. We otherize them, and it cannot be right. Okay. If I were to see that advert, I would have done it. The South Africa is burning. I could have used our flag. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to divide. It's the ANC that's dividing our country in this.
All right, but there are many people.
It's the ANC that's hurting South Africa.
But sorry, there are many people who are not members of the ANC who are also aghast at the burning of the flag. So my question to you on the burning of the flag, I'm repeating, it's not a problem focusing on 10 issues where the ruling party has messed up, and they have. What I'm interested in is the use of the flag as the symbol, and there's been a lot of opposition to say, why use the flag? Because the flag represents the highest aspirations of South Africa, and you saying you don't find that a problem.
If you look on the internet, there's a lot of writing that has been used. Heard about South Africa, it doesn't use fire because this one uses fire, and because it's from the DA, it's almost like treasonous. But there's a lot more stuff that is treasonous has been done to this country today. That's why we are in so much pain. So I don't think that this is it. I would have done that. Okay, I would have done it not because I want to define South Africa, because it's the most. We're talking about it today. The whole country is talking about it because it's the symbol that says this is the nature of our country. This is the state of our republic right now. There's nothing wrong with what the DA has done.
All right, we're going to wrap up. Here's the last thing, right? As someone who understands brand communication, is this an advert that is convincing enough to get a sitting on the fence member of the electorate to vote for the DA?
Yeah, I like that. No, it won't, but for a different reason. Because you see, the DA, because it has all this race. Each time a black person leaves the DA is because of racism. Each time it does something is because of apartheid, is racist. So the DA needs to be careful what it says because it is the DA.
but that's my point, Solly. If it's not able to convince the electorate to vote for them, then the advert would not have succeeded.
No, but that's a different thing. That's a different argument, Ashraf. There are two arguments. One, is it wrong for the DA to run this thing? I'm saying from a position, from a political perspective, it's wrong because it is the DA. When it does, they must do a bit of scenario planning. Because we are the DA, if we say X, Y, Z, this is how people are going to respond to us. But if it were MK doing the same thing, this would not have been the response. If it was somebody, Manama or something, because when you run a campaign as a brand, you need to say, if I say X, what are people going to say?
Well, I mean,
the DA didn't do this job.
All right, but Solly, that's precisely the point. Understanding your market, understanding who you are, and understanding how you lend a message to a market that you wish to attract.
Right.
Let's leave it at that. Solly Moeng, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. Solly Moeng, who's a brand reputation management strategist, but also now a member of Action SA, giving his thoughts on that DA advert. There are many others who have comments right through. We'll pick up as many calls as we can, as well as some WhatsApp text and voice notes. And we'll also chat to the representative, Terry Tsalani, just on the whole issue of MK.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, it certainly has been dominating the headlines. If yesterday was yesterday, today, this morning, it's all about the MK party and the issues of the future of Jacob Zuma and whether his image should be on the ballot sheet and not, as has been a request. But there's been a position taken certainly from the IEC. Let's find out more about that with Terry Tsalani, the executive chairperson of the Institute of Election Management Services in South Africa. Terry, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon to you and to your listeners, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Right. So give me your perspective of what has happened in terms of letters to the IEC, responses to the IEC, so that we fully understand it from an electoral management point of view.
Well, as I understand it, the Mr. Khumalo appeared to have been the person who had actually registered the party. And as you will recall, I think at the time when they wanted to have a person who's going to be the face of the party, they agreed to the change of leadership and submitted the name of Mr. Zuma as a person who's going to be on the ballot paper, but also as a leader of MK. In other words, in order for you to be on the ballot paper, you need to be a leader of a political party. Mm-hmm. Now, they used that arrangement to basically change the leadership of the party and then allow Mr. Zuma to be the face and the leader of the party. So when the commission now was confronted with a situation where they've got to deal with internal dynamics within the political party, they basically decided to stick with what they have in their papers and in their records, which is the current leadership of MK Party. And I think it's a correct decision because the commission has over the years attempted not to get involved in internal party rivalries. And I think it is on that basis that they are cautious to make sure that they don't, get involved.
But I think wisely so. I think that's completely understandable. A commission can't get involved in the internals of a party. But here's the key point. If a party leader registers a party and then effectively allows another person, who just happens to be Jacob Zuma now, to be the new leader of the party by that initial person's choice, can that position be reversed if the incumbent, in this case Jacob Zuma, agrees that the original person or another person can now lead the party, and the IEC then will accede to that request?
Yeah, if the party goes to a conference and they elect new leadership, they can submit the new details of the new leaders to the commission, and I'm sure the commission will accept it because that is the only point of reference. However, if there is a contestation on the issue of leadership. In other words, one group says, we don't recognize that group, we are the legitimate leader, and they organize another conference on the side. And the commission is confronted with two resolutions of two sections within the same party. What the commission has done in the past is that it would refer those sections or those groups to courts and say that they must go and make a determination in terms of who is actually the legitimate leader, and then bring a court order that determines the leadership of that particular party. We have done that previously with the PAC, as well as National Freedom Party, and I think the commission finalized actually the National Freedom Party recently after their conference.
I certainly remember my previous stint at SFM interviewing a leader of the PAC, and then a week later the other leader of the PAC said, no, you spoke to the wrong person, that sort of thing. So I can understand the conundrum one faces, right? Which then just leaves me with this point here. I think the ruling that you've spoken about makes complete sense to me. But how much of it destabilizes the work of the IEC in the build-up to the election? Even this ongoing issue.
No. It does, of course, have an impact in terms of preparations. Because remember that even going forward, the Commission has got to brief political parties that are contesting the elections about processes leading up to the election day. And they've got to have party agents coming from a party. Now, if we've got groupings within one party, it becomes difficult even to allocate party agents to a party because, everyone comes with their own list and say, these are my representatives. So that can have some kind of an effect that is negative in terms of the ISIS preparations. But if they stick to what they have and say that we have in our records the following leaders and only these leaders will submit information about that party, and then if we invite them to events, we'll only invite the person who is a contact person whose name has been submitted to the Commission. Then they get out of the fray and all the contestation within the party.
And just lastly, how much of a deadline is there? What I'm saying is, so at this point in time, I understand the ballot sheets have not been printed. There was a bit of a delay because of other issues around the MK party. But if I go back to the issue of the IFP in that very first election, I think it only went into print about a week or so before the election. The point I'm making is it seems like it's clear-cut now Jacob Zuma would be the face of the MK party. But assuming for whatever reason that party or any other party approaches the IEC like a week before the election to say we've actually got a leadership change here after the ballot sheets are printed, can that be repaired now?
No, there's nothing that the IEC can do unless there is a decision by the Constitutional Court to that effect. The party can just come and say, we have now changed arrangement and this is what we want to do, because a ballot paper has got to be signed off by representatives of political parties. And normally the IEC would use party liaison committee for that purpose. So once the ballot paper has been signed off, is the one that is going to be used. So in relation to the MK party, I don't think there is anything outstanding that deters the Commission from proceeding with the preparations of the elections. The only aspect, in my opinion, relates, I think, to the Labour Party, which is in the Constitutional Court now, and that in the event that the Constitutional Court decides that Labour Party has got to be a contestant in these elections, then it brings in a dynamic in terms of preparations for the elections.
And that's where we will leave it. Terry Tselane, thank you for your time, Executive Chairman of the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa, providing great insights into the workings of the IEC, something he certainly knows pretty well indeed. And hopefully we've all learned something from that in terms of what may and may not happen, what can and cannot happen. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock with Madupi Bakalamele.
Very much, Mr. Garda. The top stories at 4. Police warned to stay out of politics and Putin sworn in again. A very good afternoon. We start with election news. KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says the police officers should never involve themselves in politics. He says they need to be apolitical and neutral at all times. This as the province has seen a scourge of politically related violence over the past few months, with heightened assassinations of ward councillors. Briefing the media on the police's state of readiness for the election period, Mkhwanazi says officers who feel the need to join politics should hand in their uniforms and focus on politics.
Police officers need not be reminded that they cannot campaign for any political party, and they can never be seen to be an active member of any political party. The participation of police officers in politics of the country is limited to only when they cast their votes for their preferred political party or an independent candidate. Just like all South Africans, police officers do have the right to vote, but other than that, their responsibilities remain that of ensuring that whoever wants to go and vote do so in a safe and secure environment.
Family members of workers trapped underneath the rubble of a collapsed building at George in the Western Cape say they are still waiting for confirmation on whether their loved ones have been recovered or not. Bright Kayuni says his nephew's wife was among those on site when the building collapsed yesterday. Officials have so far confirmed that 27 people have been recovered, 6 of whom were declared dead. Kayuni says they are yet to find out whether she's been taken to hospital or is still trapped.
Us as the family who are affected with this news, what we need is we need to just find out where are our relatives, and we want to know in which condition these relatives of ours they are in, but we don't have any information at the moment. So we are just still waiting from the hospital to give us the report.
The city of Joburg says it is shocked over Eskom's decision to go to court to force City Power to pay over 1 billion rand in electricity debt. Eskom has applied to the Gauteng High Court in Joburg for a declaratory order to force the Joburg power utility to pay its debt. The city says instead Eskom owes it 3.4 billion rand in overcharges over the years. City of Joburg spokesperson Ntati Simudingwane says the city will be opposing Eskom's court application.
The city is of a strong view that the financial obligation of City Power to Eskom versus the financial obligation of Eskom to City Power should be treated in the same manner and systematically. As a matter of process, the city will be opposing the court application that Eskom filed because it has no basis in facts and law.
Residents of Polokwane City and the surrounding areas in Limpopo are experiencing water shortages. Municipal authorities say a pipe burst on the Spekon pipeline is to blame for the water cuts. The pipe burst has led to the closure of the Olifantspoort pipeline. Some of the affected areas include Gachweni and Seshego. Municipal spokesperson Tipa Selala says repairs are underway.
Polokwane municipality faces water supply disruption as the Belo Northern Water addresses pipeline leak on the Olifantspoort line. This affects areas from Gachweni to the heart of the city, including Seshego. Acting swiftly in collaboration with the Belo Northern Water, we are prioritizing solutions to minimize inconvenience. Updates will be provided soon, and we apologize for any inconvenience.
And Vladimir Putin has been sworn in for another 6-year term as Russian president at an opulent Kremlin ceremony, formally extending his quarter-of-a-century rule over Russia. In his speech, he was unapologetic about invading Ukraine, saying a united Russia will win. The BBC's Steve Rosenberg has more.
For the 5th time, Vladimir Putin took the long walk down the red carpet through the Grand Kremlin Palace on his way to the St. Andrew's Throne Hall. In these imperial surroundings, Russia's leader looking increasingly like a modern-day Tsar. On the podium, he took the oath of office, promising to take care of Russia and to serve his people. In a short speech, he said Russia didn't exclude dialogue with the West, but he accused Western countries of aggression towards Russia and of pressuring his country.
The top story at 4, KZN Police Commissioner Ntlanhla Mkhwanazi says that police officers should never involve themselves in politics. For SAFM News, Kimudupi Makhalemele.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Bromfontein is slow-moving near Smith Street. Grayston Drive eastbound in Sandton has delays at the M1 highway. In Pretoria, Mabopane Highway is where bus fire incidents reported at Theo Martins, and the M1 southbound has a stationary vehicle reported after Regal Avenue exit. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a crash near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Hillcrest, the N3 eastbound has a truck crash just before Marion Hill Plaza. The road's closed, so you're asked to expect delays. And the M13 eastbound has heavy traffic towards Cassie Road exit due to motorists diverting from that N3 highway closure. The M13 eastbound in Pinetown is slow moving on Fields Hill. In Cape Town, Bakencroft Street outbound in the CBD is slow moving towards the elevated freeway. Mike Pina Boulevard northbound in Belleville is slow moving at Frans Conradie Drive. Noyensfontein Road southbound is slow moving through Kales River, and Brighton Road in Kraaifontein slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Coming up in your sports this hour, plans well on course for the announcement of the new Boxing South Africa board, and Amir back for unfinished work at the T20 World Cup. More details at 4:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
By the way, in getting a sense of the feel of the National Pulse, wherever you are in the country, there's so many different ways to listen. First of all, we're nationwide, 104 to 107 around the country with different meter bands or frequencies. So great if you connect, and do send some pictures of wherever you are. Just send it via WhatsApp, which is probably the best thing to do. 0614 104 107. And then you can also tweet it out on the X platform. So just tag SAFM Radio and myself. Use that hashtag, the National Pulse, and you can do the same on Facebook. And talking about that, you can also listen and watch via streaming live. So if you go to the X platform, SAFM, you'll find in audio as well as in visual form this entire conversation, this whole show, 3 hours every single day, and the same on Facebook. So many ways that we can connect on a range of issues all throughout the show. Okay, right. I'm going to look at some of the issues again. Many comments around MK. Many comments continuing around the issue of the DA adverts and the national anthem and the flag. And as soon as I can, we will certainly play them. Need to get them in. So if you are WhatsApping, try and be as short as possible with voice notes, so we can get in as many as possible. Right. However, let's now move on to another issue that's developed, which is very relevant to election time. That's the green light now has been given for the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill, which signals significant changes in political funding regulations. Now, in particular reference to that is the issue of independent representatives who now would have access to financial support from the Multi-Party Democracy Fund. Now, the question is, what does all that mean? Is that something that is effective immediately, or is this post this election? I don't really know. We're going to find out, okay? OUTA themselves, they jointly wrote to Parliament Select Committee on Security and Justice asking it to reject the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill. So let's get their thoughts on this issue with OUTA's Parliamentary Engagement and Research Manager, Rachel Fisher. Rachel, good chatting to you. You're live on the National Pulse. Hi.
Good afternoon, and also good afternoon to all your listeners.
Thank you. Okay. What do you make of what's happened with the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill now being signed into law?
Okay, so perhaps maybe a first point is, what a hot election, isn't it? I mean, we are getting bombarded from all sides on narratives and speculations and events and court cases. So this is definitely an election worth watching, and I please want to ask all the listeners, please go vote. We need the vote. Okay, to respond to your question now, yes, this Electoral Matters Amendment Act now was hotly contested and supported or argued for against by a number of civil society organizations. And of course, My Vote Counts led the charge in terms of us raising our concerns to the portfolio committees and the select committee. Now, granted, we must take note that this Electoral Matters Amendment Act is very important because it follows on the Electoral Amendment Act that was signed into law last year. So looking at then with the independent candidates coming in, we did require changes supporting independent candidates, not only in the Electoral Amendments Act, but also in terms of the Political Party Funding Act. Because if you're a represented party or if you are voted as a represented independent candidate in Parliament, you do require funds. So we knew this was important. But yes, there were a number of concerns.
And what were the concerns?
Right, so I would almost split the concerns in two. One would probably be around procedural concerns, and then the other one in terms of the policy or the principal concerns within the Act and then the bill itself. Procedurally, we see how the National Council of Provinces did not engage in public participation towards getting content and feedback, listening to hearings and submissions from civil society organizations and other interested parties. Now, it's extremely important for Parliament to ensure public participation takes place on matters of public interest. So it's rather shocking that they did not deal with it. This leads to a second procedural problem, which is, as we can see now at the close of the sixth Parliament, that Parliament is rushing a variety of bills towards becoming acts and forcing this through now before the elections. And this raises concerns because as soon as you rush something, you remove potential barriers to affect what you wanted it to affect. And that's a type of manipulation, and things get passed that might go against the public's interest. So that is on the one hand. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, in terms of the content of the Act, there are a few key issues. The first is with regards to the thresholds of donations to political parties. Now, the thresholds at the minimum and the maximum threshold that people can donate money to a political party, which must be disclosed to the IEC. Mm-hmm. But currently, the minimum threshold is 100,000 Rand. As soon as you donate more than 100,000 Rand, this must be disclosed to the IEC. The maximum is 15 million Rand. So no independent or single entity can donate more than 15 million Rand to a political party. So effectively, what this now has done, this Electoral Matters Amendment Act, has removed those thresholds, and they've given the President the responsibility and the power to decide those thresholds. Now, concerningly, even now this Act has been signed off, the President has not made a proclamation as to what these thresholds are.
Okay. And I take it that proclamation would only happen after the election or even before the election?
Well, it's so important because now suddenly, because there is this gap, donors that are standing ready can actually now go and donate money upwards of the minimum thresholds and the maximum thresholds without disclosing. So those barriers have been removed.
Okay.
And which means they don't have to disclose. So it takes away transparency, which was so important within the political party.
So if we say, for example, I mean, money helps you market your election messaging, whether it's radio adverts, TV adverts, and other campaigns. And even now with like 3 weeks to go, somebody can come in with a late donation now and ensure that his or her party of choice can get themselves flighted, which would not have been the case before because of those thresholds, right?
Exactly, but it's a very innocent interpretation of yours. The scary interpretation is, the people that wield the money wield the power. So we have to consider if somebody were to make a large sum available, they might have their own interests, which, maybe under the table can pander to the political party that they must effect some changes should they get into power.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've often spoken about, the influence of funders and do political parties need funding? Yes. How do they get funding? Mm-hmm. And what then is the influence, right? Which then leads me to this issue. I mean, OUTA has taken a position that, in fact, you've opposed this bill, right? What then is the solution? I mean, it's a done deal now, but what then is the solution?
Well, at least there must be some changes enacted. So the proclamation on the threshold must occur. That needs to take place. And then, secondly, something that needs to happen, and this is not directly linked now with the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill, but if I can come back to the Electoral Amendment Act, there's a massive gap in the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs, and the Minister failed to see this through. It's the establishment of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel because of the issues identified in the Electoral Amendment Act. Now, this panel had to be constituted already prior to the elections, and they have a mandate of within 12 months after the elections to put together a report on the most viable electoral system we require for South Africa. And this will probably only be ready for 2029. So we are seeing things that need to be implemented to give or proper structure, but there's no movement on it, and this leaves gaps. So essentially what must happen is these gaps must be filled as soon as possible. And then, of course, really important, we must insist on meaningful public participation, because this is greatly affecting the public.
Okay, well, let's see how that plays out if not in the weeks ahead, certainly the period post-election 2024. Rachel Fisher, let's get that right. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Representing Outer's Parliamentary Engagement and Research Manager. Right, you may have an opinion on that in terms of the funding, because now it's up to the President to decide whether that 100,000 Rand threshold can be changed, and the 15 million rands maximum can be changed as well, and the implications thereof. Do you have an opinion? Basically, what I'm saying is, what's your point? 0614 104 107. Text or voice notes via WhatsApp. Make it as short as possible. It'll help us. Otherwise, to call in 086 000 2032. Right, let's continue talking about the issue of that advert, because lots of people want to talk about that advert. So let's get some calls on this issue right after this.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get some... in fact, this is a question. Why are you focusing on the DA and not on the EFF, who trashed the national anthem? An interesting one there. Let's get calls. Sipho in East London, hi.
Hey, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Good to talk to you, Sipho. Right, what's your point?
Thanks, Ashraf. I hate to be one of those who will be counted as having fallen into this DA campaign, but Solim Wang made me to call in. I think he has failed you. He has failed your people behind, because you planned him as a brand strategist, and you invited him as such.
Yeah,
he did not even come close. Let me not criticize him. Let me just say my expectations.
Okay.
Look, the advert as it is, Ashraf, the graphics of the advert, the current advert, speaks louder than the words or over the voiceover in the advert.
Yes, it's an image.
And,
yeah.
Yes, and those graphics, the image, are a sign of distraction, and that distraction is in variance with the brand DA.
Okay.
That distraction is in variance with the brand DA. Brand DA is projected and has presented itself as an organization of order, as people who are choosing law and order, safety of our communities, protection of our assets, and general protection of the country. We are now faced with the destruction of infrastructure generally in the country. And if they put their message across the manner they do, they may be cultivating the destruction part of the country, and where they will not be able to control it. If they were to take over, they will be confronted by, this is what you presented to us, and this is what is happening today.
Okay,
So the strategy itself is in variance, and they were hoping to capitalize through capturing the emotions of the country for the voting purposes or the voting capital. And I don't think it's working towards that.
Okay. But I mean, that's my final point, which I put to Solly, that ultimately they have to convince you and I to say, can we convince Sipho and Ashraf to vote for us. I mean, that's the whole purpose of that messaging. And if they're unable to convince, then they would have failed in that. I'm not saying others are not convinced. Maybe people are convinced about it, right? Okay. Sipho, thanks for that call. Yeah.
They are failing, Ashraf. They are failing dismally, but it's what we've come to know of DA. You will know that they tend to run into this corner of being a racist party of late. They purged black leaders, and you have not heard them pronouncing anything on racism. And they think they want to capture the white society.
Well,
and
I
they
mean,
are failing even in that regard.
But Sipho, let's leave it at that. I'm not too sure that that's really true. I mean, I think they are. They've certainly said lots of things about many things. And I think we can also take the ruling party to task on a range of their communications in the last few weeks that I'm certainly not happy with at all. But okay, Sipho, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time. Let's get another call on this issue. And I think that's the gist of what we're talking about. That I also said earlier, that, does the advert work? Does it communicate a message effectively? Besides the issue of the burning flag, does that convince you to vote for the DA or convince you to vote otherwise? And that really, at the end of the day, is what it's all about, isn't it? KG, hi.
Thank you so much for taking my call, Ashraf.
Good talking to you, KG. Yes, go ahead.
I think that advert captures the state of our country beautifully. The only problem that we are sitting here with is everybody, because it was done by the DA, will be up in arms. And I can promise you now, if that party went to Nyanga in Cape Town and they did something there beautifully, they'll still be accused of something because it is them. By the way, I've never voted for them. I'm not their supporter. But I get the crux of the message that they're sending. If you look at it figuratively, I mean literally, you will get upset. If you look figuratively, you will not get as upset. So South Africans must try to refrain from being vulnerable crybabies and stuff. And lastly, from my side, the MK party issue. I'm not sure whether the Jabulani Khumalo guy has been living in the past 5 to 10 years. The reason I'm asking this question is he is extremely foolish and crazy to have thought that he will have a nice working relationship with the fossil and it will end nicely. I mean, didn't he, if he was in South Africa all along, didn't he see how it ended with people like Mkhwebane, with Tom Moyani, Mngisi Melani, and all others?
Okay.
He must have seen and known that this person will use and abuse you. And when it's done with you, discard you like a used chip.
Well, I'm sure others are going to have a different opinion on that one, but that's the nature of the political space. KG in Bloem, thank you for your time. Much appreciated, okay? In fact, we're going to move on to a few other things around elections. One coming up later on, we'll chat to William Bird around the impact of misinformation on the electoral process. How important is that, okay? But coming up next, we chat about Bongani Bongo.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, let's try and understand this year. Yesterday, you may have heard the Supreme Court of Appeal set aside the Western Cape High Court's decision to discharge the ANC MP Bongani Bongo on a charge of corruption, going back, 3 years ago, in fact, okay? So, Bongo initially had pleaded not guilty, let's get it right, pleaded not guilty to the main count of corruption on two alternative counts of corruption. Legal analyst Malusi Kulu is with me. Good chatting to you. Hi.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Kaya, and to the listeners at home. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for your time. Yeah. Well, how do you analyze the outcome of what happened at the Supreme Court?
I think the most important thing was based on the judgment that was made on Section 174 of the Criminal Procedure Act, was the judgment made correctly. Now, just to paint the picture, I'm paraphrasing. Section 174 of the Criminal Procedure Act says, if at the end of the state case, there's no reasonable judicial officer that can convict the accused based on the evidence that has been provided, he can grant him an acquittal on the basis that there's insufficient evidence. So if you check here with Mr. Vana, I hope I've pronounced it correctly, who was the witness in this case, he was promised, although an unspecified amount, to not become a witness in an inquiry that was done on the state capture at ESCOM. It involve possibly Mr. Bongani Bongo. But the important thing is, based on the Act for Corruption, Mr. Bongo actually requested him not to testify, although he did not specify how much money he was going to give him. So the Supreme Court of Appeal is saying it was wrong, or it was incorrect for the judge not to consider it to be a corruption, because although there's no specified amount, but there was a promise that, if you don't become part of the witnesses, we'll be able to give you, some benefits. So that is the basic definition of corruption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the point was that Bongo himself was, rather the allegation, the state had charged Bongo, with corruption, alleging that he wrongfully and intentionally offered gratification to Parliament's Eskom inquiry evidence leader, the person you mentioned, that is Intuzelo John Vanara, right? Now, the fact that now it's been set aside, and then implications thereof in terms of how the process will then play out?
Yes, basically, Mr. Garda, what will happen now is that the trial will start de novo, which means in simple language it will start afresh. So whatever was certified before, it will have to start again, but it will obviously be a different judge who will be taking on the matter or listening to the evidence. So unfortunately for Mr. Bongo, he did win at the time, but the court has stated that Section 174 was not given correctly, so he now starts afresh to defend himself.
All right. Just finally, is there anything else that you'd like to highlight regarding this issue?
No, basically just to say the fact that you've won, a case based on Section 174, it does not mean that if they appeal, you will not start again. So basically, you will hope that if you get a Section 174 discharge, no one will come and appeal, because if they appeal, you have to start again, which is quite, stressful for the accused. But unfortunately, that's how the law is.
Yeah. Okay, that's where we can leave it. Thank you for your time, legal analyst Melusi Kulu. Much appreciated. Let's see how that position, that case unfolds, I guess you said, later on in this year. But there are very pressing issues that we're dealing with now. The issue of MK, there's the issue of the election itself proper, and certainly the issue of that flag that doesn't go away, isn't it? Here's another of the many voice notes we received.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Mano in Cape Town. I don't know, guys, about you in the South African media. You always want to make a big fuss over nothing. If you're looking at that advert, the flag is a metaphor. The flag is South Africa that is burning under the leadership of the ANC, and it will burn under the coalition of the ANC, EFF, and MK. Now, if you're looking when they say vote for the D8, now the flag comes back. So the metaphor there, they use the flag as the country that will burn under the leadership of these three political parties, and it will come back and be right under the leadership of the DA. So please, guys, stop misleading people and say the DA is burning the flag. The DA didn't burn the flag. Thank you, Mona in Cape Town.
Okay, well, certainly the DA burnt an image of a flag to reflect a state of the nation as they see it, isn't it? And that's what some people have an issue with. I've certainly made the point that I think in terms of the issues they've raised, they're right on many, many issues, and you should be angry with the issues that are really concerning us. Here's another one quickly.
Hi, Ashraf, it's Vugani from Devon. It's amazing what this Soli guy is doing. He emphasizes that you invited him as a brand strategist, but he's speaking like a politician. He's saying people are emotional, but he's emotional. So it's funny. It's really funny. Thank you.
Okay, got that. In fact, just to clarify, Solly Moang's been a brand specialist for as long as I know him, and known him for many, many years, but he's now also is part of Action SA, okay? So what that means in terms of his actual work, I don't really know, but we thought we'd give him his point of view. Now, let's get to the point of view from the news, because the news desk is headed up by Madupi. It's just gone 4:30.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garda, and good afternoon. In your headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has condemned the DA's controversial elections campaign and showcasing the burning of the South African flag. KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says police officers should never involve themselves in politics And special services in Poland have discovered bugging devices in a room where the cabinet was due to meet. Details coming up with Greg at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. Beyersnodie Drive in Fairland has a truck crash and lost load reported at the N1 northbound ramp. The ramp has been closed off. And the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a crash reported after Regal Avenue exit. In KZN, the M13 eastbound in Pinetown slow moving on Fields Hill. In Hillcrest, the N3 eastbound, a truck crash just before Marion Hill Plaza has led to the road being closed, and the M13 eastbound has heavy traffic towards Kasir exit due to motorists diverting from that N3 highway closure. The N3 westbound has a crash near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, Lisbeth Parkway southbound in Mowbray is slow moving through Observatory. Voortrekker Road eastbound is slow moving through Maitland, and Victoria Road is slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
I'm the captain of our sports team. He's Tumi. Go ahead.
Righty. We start things off with boxing this hour. Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Ashraf Garda, says that they're well on track in their plans to announce the new Boxing South Africa board on the 15th of May. Garda says that this week they will start the consultative process with all key stakeholders before the finalization of the recommended list. Now, the nominations list for the board after the previous appointment was challenged by the National Professional Boxing Promoters, who cited a lack of consultation. And Godra now says that the selection and interview process has now been completed.
Latest is that by the 15th, in terms of our roadmap, we hope to announce the new board. The selection in terms of names, interviews have been done. In a matter of days, we'll be doing consultation with the federations and formations. We are looking at the 15th of May. Make sure that we announce the new board.
In football, following their exit from the Nedbank Cup, where they suffered a 2-1 loss to Mamelodi Sundowns, Stellenbosch coach Steve Barker says that the silver lining in the situation is that they can now focus on finishing strong in the DStv Premiership. Stellies will face AmaZulu tomorrow evening at the Danny Craven Stadium in their next league fixture at 7:30 p.m. AmaZulu have only won 2 matches this year and are placed 12th on the log with 31 points. They lost to Pirates in both the Nedbank Cup and league and beat Chipa United 2-1 following that, and recently lost to KZN side Richards Bay. Elsewhere, Nottingham Forest were unsuccessful in their appeal to overturn a 4-point deduction in relation to their breach of the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules. Forest lodged the appeal after the deduction in March that left them vulnerable to a relegation threat. They are currently 17th with 29 points, 3 points above the bottom 3 with 2 matches to go. Then there's Champions League action today, the second leg of the Champions League semi-final. PSG at home against Borussia Dortmund, and the equation is simple for Dortmund. Avoid defeat against PSG at the Parc des Princes, and they are through to the Champions League final. And to avoid taking the tie to extra time, Paris Saint-Germain will have to win by 2 goals or more. In cricket, rejuvenated fast bowler Mohamed Amir says that he has unfinished work at next month's T20 World Cup. The 32-year-old, who was jailed for spot fixing in 2011, came out of retirement last month and is quite grateful to have a crack at the World Cup. The young Amir impressed in all formats after breaking into the Pakistan side in 2009 and playing at the T20 World Cup. He was one of the 3 Pakistan players banned from cricket for 5 years for spot fixing during a test match in England after being caught in a newspaper exchange. Then ending things off in the business of sport, Manchester United will definitely have a close keen on tonight's Champions League, hoping that Dortmund go through to the final. And let me tell you why. Because remember, United sent Jadon Sancho on loan to his former side, Dortmund, in January, with them paying an upfront fee of 69.3 million rand. This is Dortmund, with a further of 79.5 million rand in potential add-ons for the England international services. So if Dortmund advance to the final, then Manchester United get more. So they might have problems on the field. Financially, it seems like they might be okay.
My mind is on the game. What's it? PSG versus Borussia Dortmund, and I'd love PSG to play in the final against either Real Madrid versus Bayern, right?
Yeah. I think Madrid is going to be in the final.
Looks like it.
But that's it. It's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Kapela.
The University Registrar and Secretary to Convocation, Dr. Joel Baloy, cordially invites all members of the University of Venda Convocation to attend the AGM on Saturday, 11 May 2024 in Polokwane, Meropa Hotel at 10:30. The AGM will consider the Vice-Chancellor State of Campus Report, the President of Convocation Report, and amendments to the Constitution of the Convocation. To RSVP and confirm attendance, please visit www.univen.ac.za/announcements or contact Mr. Mashuda Ramarebo on 060-906-1902.
For the first time in 30 years, the ANC is set to lose its majority. Opposition parties have united as the multi-party charter for South Africa.
A strong democratic alliance with a proven track record
Can anchor a new government that serves the people.
But a new government that works is only possible if you vote for it. Let's unite and rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two grappling wizards will battle it out for the vacant welterweight title at EFC 113 as Gelson Souza and Zakir Banat fight it out for championship glory. Plus, Faiz Jacobs is out for revenge against the great Sylvester Chipumbu for #1 contendership. EFC 113 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
In fact, there's a quick message, WhatsApp message. Hello, Ashraf. Have you ever been to Cape Town? Sounds like you have never been to Cape Town. May I suggest that you come to Cape Town and see the only province that is beautiful? Let me just tell you, Cape Town is stunning. I've been to Camps Bay. I have driven past V&A Waterfront. And I've also driven past Heideveld. And I've also passed through Lavender Hill, just so you know that, okay? But if you invite me, maybe I'll come on another visit, considering I was there, 3 months ago. Let's talk marketing or investments now with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good chatting to you. Let's talk about Motor Holdings, right, and their results.
Yeah, this is the yearly results for Combined Motor Holdings. An afternoon to you and to the listeners. Remember, this is an investment holding company involved in the retail motor sector, financial services, car rental, and full maintenance and leasing, and also including insurance. Ashraf, we know consumers are under strain from high inflation, high interest rates, and that impacts disposable income. And also the consumer confidence is not impressive, and hence people take longer to replace their vehicles, but that should bode well for their services and maintenance division. For the year, they saw revenue increasing by a mere 3%, operating income up 1%, but their profit is headline earnings per share down 12%, and the dividend declared per share down 8.3%. So it's not surprising to see the share price down 5% for the day.
Right, and then you have the usual local and global markets.
You know, this increasing hopes that the U.S. Central Bank will start cutting interest rates this year continue to lift the market sentiments. Also, there's news that China is exploring new measures, and that is to tackle their housing crisis. Remember, the property sector makes up to 30% of their GDP, and markets, Ashraf, are choosing to ignore the fact that a rate cut decision will depend on the totality of the data, not only one set. And so far, when it comes to inflation, we had almost 3 months in a row of sticky inflation. And as for labor market, so far it's only one set of data that missed expectations, but markets continue to pin their hopes that come September, there should probably be a rate cut. And I guess so far that's the gamble market participants are willing to take, even though the relative strength in the job market will give the bank enough headroom to wait up until they reach their inflation target, which is 2%, and weaknesses in the fiscal demand and concerns about sticky inflation are countering fears of the escalation when it comes to that tension in the Middle East. We see Brent crude is down 0.9% at $82 a barrel, and a steady dollar is impacting the yellow metal, and traders are also buying time as they are waiting for more clues coming from Fed officials, which are continuing to speak this week. And gold is still at elevated levels, though today is down 0.2%, trading at 2,319. Platinum is up 2% at 988. The DAX is up 1%, CAC up 0.7%. The FTSE also playing a catch-up, up 1.2% as it was closed yesterday. The Dow is up 0.3%, S&P up 0.1%, just like the JSE. But our resources are down almost 1%, with our financials up 0.8%. Industrials are flat. The rand is also flat at 18.45 to the US dollar, 23.16 to the pound, and 19.88 to the euro.
Well, that's it. Thanks for that. We're going to chat tomorrow, I'm sure of that. But more market update coming up in another hour's time as well. That's, as always, we do it around this time, 20 past, just after 4:30, and then 5:30 as well. Thanks for that, Mark. Right, we are going to chat in a short while to William Bird around the impact of misinformation on electoral processes. That's part of our Election Watch feature. That comes up shortly, but there's time for some callers that we need to take and WhatsApp voice notes that I can play. Okay, the advert just shows you how racist the DA is. I will never vote for them, from Tsepo Kutamo, right? That's one. And here's another. My brother, I disagree with the burning of the flag. The flag is our heritage, so you don't prove a point by destroying heritage. The very same people crying when the EFF was destroying their statues, from Maluleke, right? And in fact, we've there's an image, Ashraf, the country's burning, and going back to that Cape Town story, the country's burning and going down the drain fast. You remember the cartoon with JZ depicting JZ raping democracy? What did you think about that? I think that it was exactly correct. Well, there you are. You've given your opinion, and that's what it is. Let's get to some of the callers now. I think we've got. I just want to check out what it is. By the way, just while we're at it on the issue of callers, I did put out the thing to say it's always good to know where you are. And some people are listening on streaming live. Some people catch us on the various frequencies around the country, 104 to 107. So either way, great if you take a picture or tell us exactly where you are. If you want to just text it with no picture, that's also cool. Just great if you do that. But if you take a picture, that's fantastic. Let's get to further calls on some of the big issues that effectively is a reflection of the national pulse. And I think at the moment it's been the DA advert, and it's also been the NK issue, right? MK issue. Bonakele, you're live, and thanks for joining us. Hello.
Hey, thanks, Ashraf. A long time no speaking to you, man. Welcome back.
Well, I'm appreciative. I'm glad we're talking finally. Thanks for calling in now, right? Right, go ahead. What's your point?
My point is excitement and very much happy with the challenge, with the action taken by this 5 members, especially Jamlani Komalo, who actually registered that NK party of former President Jacob Zuma. That fight between them, for him challenging the former president, I'm very happy. So I'm someone who actually was paying and wondering as to what action is this guy going to take. I'm talking about the 5 guys that were expelled by former President Jacob Zuma. So actually now it means my prayers have been answered. So because, like they say that he actually stole something, did something wrong with regard to the leader of the NK party. So that is what we know about the former president. I encourage him to do so.
All right, let's see what happens. Your sound's just disappearing a little bit, so I'm going to let it go. Thank you for that call. Let's see how all this plays out, right? Thanks for that call, Bonakele. I'm sure we're going to chat sometime soon again. Another of the many voice notes we've had on the flag and the brand communication issue.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I don't see anything wrong with the flag, right? The DA campaign. You remember there was a cartoon by Zapiro, where he gave us like a cartoon where Zuma was raping South Africa. So for me, I don't have a problem with the flag, as well as I don't have a problem with Zaipiro cartoons.
Yeah, he was sort of reflecting Lady Justice, I think it was. I mean, that's how it was reflected. But I mean, there's a difference between that depiction and the flag. But I hear you. And the fact is that for every person who disagrees vehemently with the burning of the flag or the image of the flag, there are many who actually feel, well, we certainly get the point. And in that case, if the purpose is to make the point, then that's certainly what they've done. Let's get another.
Yeah, I'm listening to Solly as a brand strategist. I just hope that he's stopped doing that. He's fully into politics, because the DA could have, for example, used a picture of South Africa and bent that instead of the flag. If he's talking about white and black parties, etc., the DA should be smart enough or conscious enough to know what the people of this country feel like. So I don't know, did they even pilot this? It's very weird. It's a very weird comment from them. What the DA has done is tantamount to treason. Burning a flag of a country, I don't care what you're trying to represent, you could have used many other things, many other pictures you could have used, but not that flag. Not that flag. And this is the response they were going to get as a so-called white party. There was no other response.
Well, I mean, that white party has a lot of black supporters. Let's get that right, okay, including spokesperson and many, many others, right? But I mean, here's the biggest issue of it all, okay? Because there's a school of thought that says, as you said, it's treasonous, you need to take them to court. There's another that says constitutionally they've done nothing wrong constitutionally, but it's in bad taste, which is not the same thing, right? But the ultimate issue all of this is, at some stage, the brand strategists get together and they create an advert with an agency, although they said they did it in-house yesterday, and they communicate a message to convince you and I to actually vote for them, right? And did they succeed in that? That really, if the talkability is one part of it, did they succeed in doing just that? Let's get another caller. And in fact, there's an interesting one from Sahlulele Luzipo, right, who's in Durban, but the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources. And you want to comment on that DA advert? So go ahead. Hello.
Yes, no, I was not going to comment because all of us should know. The first thing, any country that is any person, South African who's patriotic, will understand that national symbols must be respected at all costs. And the argument that tends to compare national symbols to personalities, to me is absolutely false and incorrect. The issue that made to comment is that I find it contradictory your brand strategist. One side, the brand must give you mileage, and that mileage will be the one that will make a determination whether people are choosing you or not. But he says himself, the choice may not make the party to be voted for, and which means the repercussions are worse than when the party did not have the advert. But my point I wanted to drive home is that there is no need to have an argument. South Africans must learn to be patriotic. National symbols must demonstrate appreciation of our national symbols, including the flag. We must also understand the history of this flag. This is a flag that is depicting a rainbow nation, which behind it is the interest of uniting all South Africans. And therefore there can't be an individual or a party that says so. My last parting shot is that we should separate politics of polarization from politics of uniting a country, but also give a mileage to itself. The DA clearly understand that the ANC does not own the national symbols. The ANC does not own this flag. This flag is a flag of South Africans, is a reflection of a country in unity. So if they wanted to ban a flag or to demonstrate a flag that is banning, that is owned by the African National Congress, then they should have chosen that black, green, and gold.
Okay.
I don't.
I mean, that's a point we made. That's a point we made yesterday. I mean, I get that point. Okay, we're going to leave it at that. I hear what you're saying. I mean, the proof is in the communication and how people respond to it. Let's see what happens. Thanks for that call. There we are. Satulele, thanks for that call. Let's get to others. In fact, what we're going to do, and I suppose in many ways, this is not directly to that issue, but the issue of the media and misinformation and disinformation, not just on elections and imaging, but also the electoral processes, I think is a critical issue in the build-up to the elections. We're going to talk to William Bird about that as part of our Election Watch feature.
This Election Watch feature is brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the #RememberMe initiative.
Right, William Bird is the Executive Director of Media Monitoring Africa. William, good chatting to you as always. You're live on the National Pulse.
No, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on the program.
Thank you. Now, I understand where you fit in terms of monitoring media, but you have a particular take around misinformation on electoral processes. Tell us what we're talking about here.
So, one of the key things that makes this election different isn't just the addition of independents. It's the fact that we've got an amended electoral act. It's the constitutional court challenges, and it's the fact that we've got 3 ballot papers. Now, when you introduce a whole lot of new things and people are uncertain, and when you get to a heightened period, which is an election period, it's fertile feeding ground for those who want to spread mis and disinformation. And what that means effectively is those that want to mislead us or make us fearful or make us angry or make us vote or simply make us not know what's true and what isn't. And that's essentially what mis and disinformation does. And in the lead up to an election period, it might mean the difference between me thinking, oh, I can't go vote because they've said if you've got nail varnish on, you're not allowed to vote. And then I'm denying my fundamental, one of my basic rights. So it can be on an individual basis, and it can get to something more significant where if you undermine the credibility of the IEC, for example, to the extent that people say, well, these elections weren't free and fair, then again, you fundamentally undermined your democratic state. And then you're going to say, well, that's not much of a democracy. So it can go from harming and violating individual rights all the way through to undermining the rights of the democracy altogether.
Okay. Are you saying that is happening, that it's prevalent? And the answer to that is yes. Then who is doing it?
So yes, it is happening, and we've seen this been going on. You know, we run a platform called Real 411, which is the official platform to report these things. And what we see there is that whenever there's a spike in a big event in the news, you tend to see issues relating to that and mis and disinformation rising as a result of that. So, for example, we know that the former president will be in the Constitutional Court, so we're going to see a lot of attacks about the court. We are going to expect attacks around the IEC further, and that's because they're in the news. As to who's doing it, that varies quite significantly, and you know there are lots of different schools of thought. Sometimes it's quite obviously supporters of political parties. Other times it is people that may be foreign actors. There are some instances of that, but by and large, in South Africa, our mis and disinformation tends to come from within our own kind of factions of political parties and supporters of parties.
And why would they do that? What I'm saying, this is not about misinformation or disinformation regarding, other candidates or other parties, which I think would be the most obvious one, right? But this is about electoral processes.
So if you can, one of the reasons they do that, right? So let's take it out of South Africa so that people can see the issue as opposed to be emotional about the party, is if you look in America, Donald Trump said the elections were stolen from him and they weren't free and fair. And he does that, why? In order to, account for the fact that actually he didn't get the votes that he needed. So when you fail as a party, and we've seen that in some political parties here, where they don't do well or they suddenly realize they're not going to do very well, they start attacking the credibility of the IEC, so that when they perform very badly, they go, oh, well, it wasn't us, it was because the whole thing was rigged against us, and we're just victims of a plot, and this is all evil. And also, if you have designs on a state that is not democratic, then it helps to undermine the very institution that ensures that you have a fundamental democratic issue, which is elections.
Okay, how do we combat this?
So there are a number of ways that people can do so. Individually, the first thing to do is when you see posts on social media and you think, oh, this is outrageous, the moment it ticks all of your bias bells All of us have our own biases about things. The moment it makes you very emotional, very angry, scared or anxious, and you're tempted to just hit that repost button on whatever platform it is, or or reshare. The thing is to just take a moment, go have a cup of tea, come back, and then think about it credibly and say, well, hang on a minute, what is here? Because disinformation often has a grain of truth to it, so it'll often link to a broader discussion. But then what you want to do is go, hang on, is this being covered by reputable media? Go listen to SAFM. Is it on SAFM? Because if it is the big story that you think it is, SAFM or any of the other SABC channels or other media houses will definitely be carrying it. If it isn't there, don't share. And if you do see it, then go and report it to Real 411, and it'll be reviewed independently, and action can be taken against it in that way.
So that I think is an important one in keeping in mind. I mean, I look at myself. I certainly, I'm on air here, but I certainly post on various social media platforms. But there's a responsibility because of the position I hold. But you have others who are purely on social media, right, with no accountability to anybody. They don't have an actual constituency with a check and balance around the ICASA rules. And that's where the concern is. People can wing a story and say what they want, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the perfect thing is that the SABC, one of the reasons the public broadcaster is so important for an election period is precisely because it is the public broadcaster. It's the institution that people can go to for the most diverse coverage, to make sure that political parties are going to be fairly and accurately represented. If people want to know, well, did this really happen? Did that politician really say that, or was that voice note made up? They'll go to SABC, they'll go to credible media, precisely because if Ashraf says something and I say, Ashraf, but I think you were lying or something, I can immediately report you to the SABC. Yeah. Outside of elections, I report you to the Broadcast Complaint Commission. Inside of election period now, I'll report you to ICASA, and they'll then have a hearing, and they can be very serious consequences to that.
That's a good point.
There are serious consequences, whereas for others, they can just make up nonsense, which is why I said check before you pause before you post and check that they're credible. And if it isn't in credible media, don't repost it.
Absolutely. It sounds too incredible as opposed to credible, and there's something wrong. And I think we saw the example today with this conversation around, the MK party. But again, you don't just look at the first post on social media and say it's a fact. You double check and triple check and make sure that there's a variety of media houses saying the same thing. William Bird, thanks for your time as always. I'm sure we'll chat sometime soon. William Bird, Executive Director of the Media Monitoring Africa.
This Election Watch feature was brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the #RememberMe initiative. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Love the fact that we get people from around the country. Some people I don't know, some people are involved in organizations, and they have strong views on a range of issues that ultimately links to the national pulse, right? Lester September has called in. He's the chairperson of the Forum of the Cape Flats Civics, and he wants to comment on the flag issue. Lester, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you for taking my call.
It's a pleasure. Go ahead. What's your point?
Yes, to me, I think it's hypocrisy. It's hypocritical. They're also showing their contempt of the new South Africa. I'm the chair of the Forum of Cape Flats Civics, but I'm also the deputy chair of the Greater Cape Town Civic Alliance. And for many years, we've been calling for what we refer to as the reversing of apartheid spatial planning. And our calls have fallen on deaf ears. Instead, we find a perpetuation of apartheid spatial planning, where the poor and the working class, most of whom are historically disadvantaged, are being relegated to the peripheries of society. This is, why I'm saying is also hypocritical for them to doing is because ultimately this is leading to the demise and all the problems that we are faced with in South Africa. For example, the unemployment rate, right? If you look at the unemployment rate within the inner city, it's very low. The percentage is between 4 to 6%. But the further you move from the inner city, the higher it gets. If you look at, for example, a bastion of the anti-apartheid struggle like Bonteheuwel, that is a few years ago, it was 34% unemployment rate there. But if you look at people who have given up looking for work, it almost shoots up to 59%. Then those people are then redirected to areas that they are said, no, you're close to an industrial area. But then you look at that industrial area, and they're only absorbing about 155 jobs per hectare. While the inner city
Yeah.
is absorbing 1,000 jobs per hectare.
All right, Lester, we're on to news time. I'm going to have to leave it at that, I'm afraid. But I think the point that you've made, you've articulated well. You've got us thinking. And perhaps here's the thing for all of us. Flag, no flag. What is it in terms of images in the country that reflects the current state of South Africa? Not just the flag. What is it you can tell us about images that reflect where we are on a range of issues, especially the point that Lester's just brought up now? Right, let's get to the news now. And heading up the news desk is Greg House.
Thank you and good afternoon to you, Ashraf. In this news update, Ramaphosa slams DA election adverts and police should remain outside politics. Good day to you. To begin with election news, President Cyril Ramaphosa has condemned the DA's controversial election campaign advert showcasing the burning of the South African flag. He's described the DA's advert as treasonous.
With regard to the burning of the flag, even in a political advert, that is treasonous. The flag of our country is a sacred article in the life of our country. It is that flag that unites all of us. It is despicable that a political party can, as it seeks to express itself, go and burn the symbol of our unity, the symbol of our existence as a nation.
Meanwhile, the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, has defended the party's controversial advert. He says the advert is a reminder to voters who will vote for an ANC, EFF and MK party coalition in the national and provincial elections later this month. He describes the coalition of the parties as a doomsday coalition that would lead the country into economic decline.
He uses the flag as an allegory of the problems that South Africa is facing. Our economy is burning. Our infrastructure is burning. Our unemployment rate is burning. Our child malnutrition rate is burning. And all of these things are setting the country back. And the advert says that if we want to accelerate that burn, well, then get the ANC Doomsday Coalition come in with the EFF.
KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says police officers should never involve themselves in politics. He says they need to be apolitical and neutral at all times. This as the province has seen a scourge of politically related violence over the past few months, with increased assassination of ward councillors. The Commissioner briefed the media on the police's state of readiness for the election period.
Police officers need not be reminded that they cannot campaign for any political party, and they can never be seen to be an active member of any political party. The participation of police officers in politics of the country is limited to only when they cast their votes for their preferred political party or an independent candidate. Just like all South Africans, police officers do have the right to vote, but other than that, their responsibilities remain that of ensuring that whoever wants to go and vote do so in a safe and secure environment.
Say Social Security Agency SASSA in Mpumalanga says their offices in Piet Retief remain closed. Operations at the offices were halted after two officials allegedly brought in 3 unknown men into the office to perform certain rituals. Some employees allegedly became suspicious after a number of needles were found scattered all over the offices. SASSA spokesperson Senzeni Ngube.
However, even though the prayers happened over the weekend, as for today or this week, we will still be operating at the community hall up until all the matters that have been raised as concerns by the staff are addressed and the situation is then agreed to be normal. The investigation is about conducting rituals in the office after hours, which is a misconduct on its own. The investigation is focusing on those matters right now.
Special services in Poland have discovered bugging devices in a room where the cabinet was due to meet. The BBC's Adam Easton has the details.
The bugging devices were found in a room where ministers were due to meet in the southern city of Katowice. The weekly cabinet meeting, which is chaired by Prime Minister Donald Tusk, was shifted to the city because many ministers are taking part in a major conference there. The special services have not said who was responsible for planting the devices.
Top story, President Ramaphosa has condemned the DA's controversial election campaign advert showcasing the burning of the South African flag. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg House.
Coming up in your sports, the Sawa Junior Box lose to Australia in Under-20 Rugby Championship, and we hear from Clinton Lawson on how he's preparing Magezi for top flight football. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R21 northbound in Kempton Park has a crash near the R23 Benoni exit. The N3 southbound in Edenvale has a crash near Linksfield Road. In Midrand, the N1 northbound has a stationary truck just after Allendale Road exit, and Summit Road westbound has delays near Plantation Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound is queuing towards the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 westbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Hillcrest, the N3 eastbound, that truck crash just before Marion Hill Plaza has led to the road being closed, and the M13 eastbound has heavy traffic towards Cassie Road exit due to motorists diverting from that N3 highway closure. And the N3 westbound has a crash reported near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a stationary vehicle just before Durban Road exit. The N2 outbound is queuing on Spine Road off-ramp. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, Tempa, my producer, walked in Ashraf, the people's pulses are racing. And I think that's true because there are so many issues that we cover that reflects the national pulse of the country that certainly gets us thinking and certainly gets you thinking. And I think that's completely understandable, right? Now, feel free at all times, we try as much as we can. Let me just tell you that to take as many calls as we can at times, or WhatsApp voice notes. So if you are WhatsApping with voice notes, the shorter the better. It just allows us to run through a whole lot more, okay? But 0614 104 107. Otherwise, you can text us on WhatsApp. But to call in, 086 000 2032. And we'll try as much as we can to run through so many. Let me tell you, we haven't forgotten about the other issue that should concern you, which is the issue of George and that horrific story of this building collapsing. And as we know now, people have died, 6 people confirmed dead, but still 48 people unaccounted for. And I can just imagine, well, I can't imagine because I'm not in that position. You hope you're never in that position. But I can understand how they must be thinking right now. And if you are in any way connected to that community in George, either it's your family or somebody you know, or somebody you know, somebody who knows somebody else, and you wish to comment about that, then I certainly would like to know, and you can please call in. I'll take your thoughts on that issue right away. Right, let's then get to the issue that we've covered earlier on, because it's such a big issue, the issue of the MK party. Now, what happened earlier about the application, in fact, if I can call it that, right, from Jabulani Khumalo to ensure that the face of the MK party not be Jacob Zuma. The IEC has shot that down completely to say, actually, Jacob Zuma is the registered name on that party list as the leader. So that's the face, that's the image. He would be the face that we'll see on the ballot form, right, coming up on the 29th of May. But the greatest story is just these developments that have happened, whether you want to call them spats, whether you want to call them internal fights, whether you want to call that an inability to manage each other. Either way, for me, I think the big concern, and something I've raised earlier on, is the issue of what impact does it have on the party image in convincing you potentially to vote for that party, right? So let's get the opinion then of certainly somebody who follows that beat very, very often. That's Professor Dirk Kotzer on the line. Thank you for joining us. As always, much appreciated.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. What do you make, firstly, of the goings-on this morning? It's like 24 hours is a long, long time in politics, isn't it?
Yes, that's indeed so. And it starts to pick up the pace when it comes to MK, it seems to me. I think what you have now presented in the introduction is one of the headaches for something like the IEC. And they've had that in the past also, and that was in the case of the Pan-Africanist Congress not so long ago. where there were also two leaders, and they had to determine who is the actual leader. And it went to courts, and the court had to present a judgment of that the IEC should follow. The IEC normally does not become involved in the internal politics of political parties. At this point in time, I think what they try to do is to manage it to the extent of saying, well, President Zuma is not out because there's also reports that he has been kicked out of MK party. And if that is the case, then it will create a lot of instability for the election as a whole. So I think at this point in time, the IEC tries to keep out of the internal politics of MK, but at the same time also must make sure that MK does not implode. And in a way, maybe that what we saw in 2009-10 with COPE, the infighting between the leadership. And there's some resemblance in terms of what we are seeing now at the early stage and the COPE saga.
Now, I mean, my thought is that in spite of what the IEC has said, and I think they've ruled effectively, it would have been a lot more complicated if they've said, okay, we will consider now changing the face of the leader, and I can imagine that the tumult of the next few days that would have happened around that. Okay, so they've been very clear cut. They can't do that. That story is over. Having said that, the fact that it was even considered initially by the original person who registered the party, does that not, I'm talking about Jabulani Khumalo, right? Does that not suggest he's not going to let this go? That means that there'll be other ways of amplifying what clearly is a manifestation of leadership, erstwhile leadership or former leaders that are really wanting to be guarding their space and guarding their own turf here.
Yes, no, that is indeed so. And I think, the fact that he was expelled from MK, or that is at least how it is presented to the outside world, is obviously the way in which the reason why he's now fighting back. So it's not only about the President Zuma's position, but it's also about for him to be able to come back into the ANC. He has been, up to now, a relatively unknown political factor or entity. We don't know much about him from a political point of view. He hasn't been involved in any other sort of key political position in any other political party. So I think this is relatively strange. There's all sorts of stories and accusations against him and the other four that were expelled, and about the lifestyle matters. So it becomes a very, how should I say, it's a very awkward and it's sort of underground, under the surface situation that we are seeing here. There's clearly some other dynamics that's not happening in the public domain that really influences this. But for him, it's definitely a fight back. And I think because he was number 2 on the MK's list for the National Parliament, the National Assembly, I think that was his expectation. And he was relatively comfortable with that after the position after President Zuma's one. Now he's completely out, and I think this is where his fight back comes from. But to what extent he has support, that is still unknown, because that will be the decisive factor. Does this constitute a type of a faction within MK, or is it a few personalities that's involved in this situation?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I mean, with that in mind, I mean, the issues of MK around IEC challenges, as we know, still continues, right? And I think the IEC, they commented, you may have said so earlier on, that they're also concerned about issues of instability. And this is before this Jabulani Khumalo issue came up, right? Is there a concern that, because what you want is a free and fair election, you want stability, you do not want instability, you don't want any factions, you don't want any arguments between parties or parties themselves or even within a party that can spill over into something that will cause uneasiness and unrest in the country. Are you concerned about that at all?
Yes, I am, because we've seen the potential that it has, and what happened, obviously in a different context, but what happened 2 years or so ago in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng, and many people are concerned that these groups do have the potential to have for something similar to happen. But I think there's another component that one must add to this, and that is that the IEC does not want to become embroiled in a situation where they don't know who is the jure leader of the party who must appear on the ballot paper. Because if that becomes a court matter, imagine how that can delay the printing of ballot papers. And if there's a different outcome, what must they do in order to therefore, in inverted commas, to correct the situation of who's the real leader of IMCA? So I think and that is why I referred earlier on to the PAC situation, is that if it becomes a very murky and a very dirty situation, and there's no obvious way in which it can be resolved, then they tend to refer it to the courts, to the electoral court, to sort out, and that they will then implement that. But even that is going to be, at the point where we are now in terms of the preparations for the elections, will complicate it. And therefore, I think what the IEC wants is to try to keep to the status quo as much as possible, and if there's any challenges to that, then it must happen after the election.
Okay, and well, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time. And by the way, as you say that, I see the Kathrada Foundation are confirming that they are now friends of the court in that issue between the IEC and the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, which is scheduled to be heard on Friday. That's this coming Friday, the 10th of May. Prof. Dakotsa, thanks for your time, as always. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. What do you make of that? What's your point around, not just that party, but other parties? Are you concerned at all around instability? I'm generally very optimistic, so I'm certainly hoping that's not the case, and you don't go and fish around and hope that will be the case. But are you at all concerned? At all? What is it that concerns you? By the way, with regard to other issues that may concern you, like your shopping habits, what about the issue of the A to Z? I'm talking about Amazon. Well, they've officially launched, I understand, in South Africa. We'll talk about that pretty shortly. And how will that challenge the status quo in terms of, offline shopping or physical shopping versus online? We'll talk about that too. I'll pick up some of the calls right after this.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get to some of the calls. I just want to check if I can read up. Okay, we'll get to one or two in a moment. Amin's on the line in Durban. Hi, Amin. Good chatting to you. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Garda. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, go ahead. What's your point?
I speak as a commissar of the South African Communist Party, and I started an organization called PAM.
Okay.
People Against Maladministration and Mismanagement, of which I've announced this to the Minister of Water and Sanitation.
Okay.
We entered into Phoenix. That alluding to or directly saying that the government has failed the people of South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I've always admired the way the DA have articulated the arguments, and more so ever sometimes noting that they were evasive of the questions on your shows. The burning of the flag is one of disrespect and disregard. It is the most profound national symbol that symbolizes our diversity coming into unity, our history, and moving into the future as a collective. And to destroy something as profound as that belongs to all of our people and just not the DA. And they need to be reminded of this here. It belongs to all of us, and of course it's creating a great amount of hurt in the burning of the symbolic burning of the flag. I will advise my people in Phoenix not to vote for a party of that kind that is so who have portrayed so much of disrespect and disregard for something that belongs to all of us.
Okay, now let me ask you this question just quickly. I mean,
Yes,
I hear you. I certainly am not. I did not like the fact that the flag was burnt or the image of the flag was burnt at all. Not at all. So just so that you know that. Having said that, I've also seen a massive reaction, certainly from other political parties, particularly from the ANC party. I'm talking about members of the ANC. Now, why I'm saying that, we are talking of an election coming up soon, okay, is the fact that you can be angry and disappointed and upset and aghast at this. That doesn't necessarily translate into this is like the biggest thing in the world. Now, why I'm saying that, do you not also see the counter, which is the sense of political opportunism for parties that oppose the DA and who are most threatened by any votes towards the DA, particularly I'm talking about the ruling party?
Absolutely. Well, it is, as you said, the environment for contestation, for I would think within the South African context, direct insults and do not. What the parties are failing to do, I would think that they're too much in terms of picking up the faults of others, as opposed to giving us the solutions. We know the problems. They're stating the problems quite, nicely. But they're not giving us the solutions. For example, they speak of economic development, but there's nothing profound. There's
well, I mean, to be fair, they have to rush it in a very short ad message. I mean, that's understandable. I mean, I got your point. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Talking about ads, and maybe this is exactly the point with a voice note.
Afternoon, Ashraf Hamilton here. Any joke that needs explanation loses its value. Same as the advertisement. An advertisement that needs explanation loses its value. So what the DA did here is to score an own goal. They've scored an own goal by this advertisement. Whatever they wanted to gain, they will lose. That's Hamilton. Have a good afternoon.
Tell you what, in terms of your commentary on any ad or any joke that needs explanation loses its value, well, applause to you. I think you're spot on that, okay? Benny in Pretoria. Hi, Benny. Benny, do I have you there? Maybe not. Yeah, Benny, hello.
Hi, how are you, Ashraf?
Yes, I'm good, Benny. Go ahead. What's your point?
No, it's regarding this emblem, the flag, and the depicting of the flag, the burning of the flag. But I myself, I'm talking about me. I don't see it as an insult or as anything that is awkward, because what they are depicting there, and the flag was animated. It was not a leaf flag where there was a group of people burning the flag literally where there was fire. It was just an ash going, and the flag resurfaces again, and in a new form, a same form where the ANC has denounced this flag, But now, yes.
Yeah, I was saying, I mean, there was a rebirth at the end. I mean, you're right, it's an image of a flag. It's not an actual flag. It's an image of the flag. But, I mean, for the average person, an image of a flag is an image of a flag. If you see somebody on TV, it doesn't mean they're physically in a box there. It's their image. But we say they're on TV, isn't it?
Yeah, but I see nothing wrong. For me, a flag doesn't represent anything. It's just an image of a country. This country is burned. This country is a disaster.
Okay. Got that. Yeah. Benny, thanks for that call. Benny's point made. And yeah, what is an image and what's not an image? What's real and what just depicts something? Perhaps here's another thing for all of you. Besides the flag, what are the most sacrosanct national symbols that we have in our country? You tell me. Just WhatsApp and or voice note us. We're going to talk about Amazon right now.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Tell you what, up to now, you either shop at home or you go and shop online. And I hear the word take a lot so often, but you may have to change the wording if you're going to go the Amazon route, because they've now announced finally the launch of Amazon.coza, which gives you the opportunity to shop online. Now, we know it's important, and there's an investment they've made in the country as part of our focus on innovation. Let's talk about just that and the implications thereof with Pataung Kotsakwane, who's a technology columnist at iAfrican.com. Pataung, good chatting to you. Hi.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and afternoon to all South Africans.
Right, so first things first, I mean, Amazon is a global company. How significant, A, is their investment in the country, and now that they are actually ready to do business. They're open for business, right?
Ashraf, I think for the benefit of our listeners, this is a good signal. I mean, just for the benefit of our listeners to understand the landscape in South Africa. I mean, online retail just in 2009 was worth 30 billion, right? And fast forward now to 2024. We found it, online retail has surpassed the 50 billion milestone, and right now it's valued at 55 billion. So, I think the market in South Africa is ripe. When you look at internet penetration, the use of digital and sort of other online means as a result of COVID, we're really seeing a push in that direction, and I think the investment is speaking for itself.
Okay, how will this change the terrain in terms of shopping habits, but also in terms of market share? Because there are others who are listening to us today who've been plotting and planning to say, hold it, like we talk about political parties looking for votes. Well, the incumbents certainly don't want us to go and shop at Amazon, do they?
So I think for the benefit of our listeners, the comparison, so to say, between Amazon and Takealot, I think should be seen in multiple ways. I mean, I'm just going to highlight two. The first, definitely the most sensitive, is going to be pricing and feeing. Another one is going to be product range. So take, for example, Takealot. I mean, Amazon has a standard fee in South Africa that is a base fee of 400 Rand a month. And the fulfillment fee on a unit is 27 Rand. Then you look at Takealot, for example, it has a base fee of also 400, but its fulfillment fee, on the other hand, is 20 Rand per unit. So I think these numbers, in the bigger scheme of things, it's what is going to determine the attractability between Amazon and Takealot. And I think the other thing to look out for is the fact that because Amazon is a global company, it has a much wider product range, and I think it would be borrowing a lot of their products in other jurisdictions to now become available in the South African market. So I think these are some interesting aspects and interesting factors to look at the two companies.
And do you think that in this case consumers make a buy local decision? I'm thinking proudly South Africa as we talk.
100%. I think if I was Amazon, I would be smart and also like pushing a lot of buy local. But I think now when you look at the consumer index, you look at inflation, I think the most sensitive thing to shoppers right now in South Africa is the price point. You get the pricing right, you get the delivery right, you get the trust aspect right, and I think you've got a recipe for success.
Now, interesting, you made the point about sources of supply. So one could be global sources, from outside the country, but perhaps a very successful Amazon together with a very successful Takealot could also open up even a whole series of new avenues in terms of pipelines for growing smaller industries that provide service to them. And that would be exciting.
100%, Ashraf. I mean, even when you look at it much broader, we're busy talking about South Africa, but we have a whole African continent. I mean, we have Lesotho, Swaziland, Zimbabwe. We have a lot of jurisdictions, I think, that are ripe for the likes of Takealot to penetrate. I mean, when you look in, other jurisdictions within the SADC, online shopping, online infrastructure shopping hasn't really found its roots, unlike in East Africa when you find Jumia. But I think now is the right time to go into your Botswanas, go into Namibia and other jurisdictions. So there's definitely a growth aspect where the two companies can, try and, compete in other jurisdictions in order to mitigate the South African competition.
Okay, and just to wrap up, remind me if you haven't done so before, and I hope you have this figure, the percentage of people who shop online versus the percentage of people who are shopping offline. That means, traditional shopping. What's the percentage now if you have it, and what are the shifts? Does it indicate some significant shifts?
Look, Ashraf, I think since the global pandemic, there's been a significant shift, right? Both, in both ways. When COVID closed, we saw, a sharp increase in online trade. But now, brick and mortar is also picking up. I mean, other companies such as Redefine Properties is, significantly reported, an increase in foot traffic in terms of, their shopping retail portfolio. But I think, shopping retail tenants. But I think over a period of time, the brick and mortar of this online, I don't think it's a competition thing. I think they both can exist because by far, South Africans still prefer to go shop in person. This will be online, but I think as the price of data drops and the trust aspects and security aspects improve, I think we'll start seeing an increase in that.
And maybe just with the arrival of Amazon and together with Takealot and others, maybe the opportunity is for even more online sites to emerge as more and more people are finding that a more acceptable way of shopping. How does the established market then respond is another whole question completely. But Taung, we'll leave you for that to think about for another time. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated. That's Bataung Kotsokwane, who's the technology columnist at iAfrican.com. What do you think of it? In fact, here's the question. How do you do your shopping? What percentage online? What percentage traditionally bricks and mortar stores? And do you see a shift? Are you having conversations at home about shifts that you may make? I absolutely want to know. You can also tweet us or even comment on our SFM Radio Facebook page using the hashtag #TheNationalPulse.
A look now at the headlines of this half hour. The Western Cape government has released details of the developer of the collapsed building in George. President Ramaphosa has condemned the DA's controversial election campaign advert showcasing the burning of the South African flag. And international aid agencies say the closing of the two main crossings into southern Gaza makes it virtually impossible to assist civilians there. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Sandton is queuing towards Marlborough Drive. The N3 southbound in Edenvale has a crash near Linksfield Road. Winnie Mandela Drive in Hurlingham has a crash at Republic Road. In Pretoria, Paul Kruger Street northbound has heavy traffic towards Wonderboom Junction, and Mabopane Highway northbound is where bus fire incidents reported at Theo Martins. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 westbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 eastbound queuing at Ashburton, Chris Honey Road westbound queuing at the N2 highway in Hillcrest. The N3 eastbound has a truck crash just before Marion Hill Plaza, resulting in the road being closed, and the M13 eastbound has heavy traffic towards Cassie Road exit due to motorists diverting from that N3 highway closure. In the Eastern Cape, a stationary truck reported between East London and Butterworth. That's in that stop-go roadworks near Komga, so you're asked to expect some very heavy traffic. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound has a crash at Liesbeek Parkway causing delays through Hospital Bend. The N1 outbound has a stationary vehicle on Plattekloof Hill causing some delays there. The N7 checks Havel Drive southbound queuing towards Voortrekker Road. Heavy traffic around Maynard Mall Complex in Wynberg, and Liesbeek Parkway southbound is slow moving through Observatory. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Right, our Minister of Sport, Tumi, go ahead.
All right, this hour we start things off with football. We're following their promotion to the DStv Premiership next season. Magezi FC coach Clinton Lawson has wasted no time gearing up his charges for the top flight. The veteran mentor steered the Limpopo-based outfit to the elite level by winning the Motsepe Foundation Championship with 2 games to spare at the weekend. And what he's saying is that he's already got players on his mind, and he already knows who he wants to sign for next season so that Magezi can at least stay in the league.
So he's got a job as well. I mean, we also know that. He's not leaving to move to another club.
Actually, it's quite interesting because the chairman of the club, when asked if Clinton is going to stay on, he said the management of the team will decide if he's going to stay on.
Oh, my goodness.
Like...
You know, that doesn't happen often with coaches, but it happens with players where a team gets promoted. Mm-hmm. And into a top flight, whether it's Premier League, La Liga, or the DStv Premiership, and then the management understands they're not good enough to stay there. You know,
it happened with Sean Bartlett.
So then you get a complete clean sweep of players.
And okay, with the coaches, it happened with Sean Bartlett, where he helped Golden Arrows, and then they got rid of him when they. I don't understand that thinking. I really don't. But there's some DStv Premiership action to look forward to tonight. Cape Town City coach Eric Tinkler says that he won't change his philosophy against Morocco Swallows tonight in order to end their winless start to 2024. Tinkler's side drop out of contention for the CAF Champions League football as they failed to win win a single game this year. Now, the Mother City outfit are 14 points adrift of Stellenbosch in 7th place with 4 fixtures remaining in the 2023-24, although Tinkler believes that they just 1 win away from turning the corner. Another team in action today, or teams, Royal AM face struggling side Cape Town Spurs, Kaizer Chiefs host TS Galaxy, and Skukuna United are away to SuperSport United. Also, Champions League action today, PSG at home against Borussia Dortmund, and the equation is simple for Borussia Dortmund. They need to avoid the defeat against Paris Saint-Germain at Parc des Princes, and in terms of PSG, to avoid going through to the extra time, PSG have to win by 2 goals. And I'm saying this just for clarity's sake, because a listener earlier on said they tried to correct me saying that PSG just needs to win by 1 goal. But remember, Dortmund is going into this game while leading 1-0 on aggregate. So if PSG is only going to win 1-0, then it's going to be 1-1 on aggregate. It's going to go to penalties.
Extra time.
It's going to go to extra time. So they need to win by a margin of 2 goals. Then in boxing, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Zizi Godwa, says that they are on track with their plans to announce the new Boxing South Africa board on the 15th of May. Godwa says that this week they will start with a consultative process with all key stakeholders before the finalization of the recommended list. The nomination list for the board after the previous appointment was challenged by the National Professional Boxing Promoters, who cited a lack of consultation. And Godwin now says that the selection and interview process has now been completed.
The latest is that by the 15th, in terms of our roadmap, we hope to announce the new board. The selection in terms of names, interviews have been done. In a matter of days, we'll be doing consultation with the federations and formations. We are looking at the 15th of May. Make sure that we announce the new board.
In rugby, the junior Springboks went down 24-19 to Australia in the Under-20 Rugby Championship. The result means that South Africa bottom of the log with 1 game left against Argentina, putting an end of South Africa's chance of winning the competition. Meanwhile, Stormers star Sabelo Senatla is back in training after a career-threatening car crash last year. The 31-year-old suffered serious muscle and nerve damage to his arm during the accident in May 2023. And then the prognosis back then said that he would need to overcome mountains to be back in action. And 1 year later, he looks well on course because he took part in a full training session with the Stormers yesterday as they prepare for back-to-back URC clashes against Dragons and Connacht. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. For SAFM Sport,
Thanks for that. So we're talking about the Stormers. I wonder whether you have so many people from, living in Joburg or Durban, they have a majestic Stormers connection, something about Cape Town, and I've seen that probably more than any other region in the country. I wonder if you want to add to that. Tell me about it too.
In this week's episode of The Masked Singer South Africa, the mystery continues as we meet Ice Cream, Blue Crane, Cheetah, and Gold.
She's gonna go down in the history as the most difficult mask to figure out.
Who will be the panel of detectives and superfan audience's favorite, and who will be unmasked? Don't miss The Masked Singer South Africa this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on S3.
Any person aggrieved by any political advertisement or political election broadcast that is broadcast by SAFM may lodge a complaint within 5 days from broadcast with the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. To lodge your complaint, please contact ICASA's Compliance Department via telephone number on 012-568-3233. That's 012-568-3233. Or email broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. That's broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. Alternatively, complaintsccc@icasa.org.za. That's complaintsccc@icasa.org.za.
So here's the bottom line. If you are living in Joburg or Pretoria or Durban or Gqeberha, but you're originally from Cape Town, do you just love the Stormers like nobody else? I just get that sense, okay? If you want to comment on that, you tell me. Think about this in the meantime. The apartheid government was so afraid of Beyers Naudé that for 7 years, it banned him from being in a room with more than one other person. I hope you remember that. But in 1994, he voted in the country's first democratic election and worked hard to help previously disenfranchised people do the same. So on May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust's Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honour Nodia's memory by exercising the right he fought so hard for, the right to vote. #Remember Me.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So concerning we were talking about Amazon earlier, it's only natural as we get to Jimmy Moyaha from the MoneyWeb Market Update and say, Jimmy, you got the A to Z of markets.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Dumi. Yes, we certainly do. We're going to be looking at that Amazon announcement. We're going to be looking at what it means for the South African landscape. Obviously, this is a good time for any competitor to be coming into a market that needs competition, and it might just shake up what we're getting from Takealot and the like. So we're going to dig into that for sure and look at see what's happening there. We've also got an announcement from Food Lovers. They're entering the pet market. They've got an interesting partnership with another family-owned business called VetSmart. Very tricky where those letters are located. A company that has a couple of stores and footprint within South Africa and Namibia. They've entered into a partnership to expand into the food or the pet food space, much like the likes of Woolworths have done recently with that acquisition of Absolute Pets. So we're going to speak to Food Lovers, try and understand what that means for their business and for their offering as a whole. And then we've got an early announcement towards, or more of a teaser towards what's happening tomorrow. FlySafair Air has their 10 Rand sale tomorrow. Don't say I didn't tell you, Ashraf. It's coming tomorrow. It starts tomorrow early in the morning. I'm going to speak to the head of marketing at FlySafair Air to try and understand what we can expect this year as compared to last year and what it means for South African consumers that want to get ahead of that sale. We know that the waiting rooms and the online website are often packed throughout the day until those flights are sold out. So another big thing that happens in South Africa around this time of the year, and we're looking forward to it and try and unpack what that means for all of us. And then because it is Tuesday, we have our agri feature today. We're going to be chatting to the head of NAMPO. NAMPO has their annual harvest day coming up next week, week-long harvest festival from Tuesday to Friday, organized by Grain SA, really showcasing the agricultural prowess and landscape that we have in South Africa. Agricultural companies come through there, manufacturers, suppliers, farmers, banks, the works. It is one of the biggest agricultural expos. It is in its 56th year. So we're going to be speaking to the head of NAMPO around what to expect from next week's harvest day or next week's event calendar. And then that's going to be part of our agri feature, as I mentioned. But before we get to that, the markets have had quite an interesting day. They haven't been moving too much. Some stocks have had a better day than others, and Henko Kriya has been keeping an eye on those markets for us throughout the day. He joins me now to do a quick summary of the market movements. Henko, good afternoon. Thanks so much for taking the time. The Rand continuing to hold a little steady. Not such a good day for resource counters, but we're still seeing that the Brent crude price is below $85.
Yes, Jimmy, good evening to you, and hello to Ashraf and to me, and good evening to all the listeners. Jimmy, yeah, but overall I would say it was a good day, worldwide at least, because in the US we see that their markets are up. They've still got a way to go today with their trading, but at this stage, US markets about 0.3% stronger. European stocks, they finished well into the green a short while ago, with the FTSE 100 gaining 1.2%. The DAX was 1.5% stronger, and the CAC 40 gained 1%. And then the JSE also finished in the green and was 0.2% stronger at a higher level of 76,929 points. The industrial index was more or less unchanged, but it gained a little bit, only 0.05%. The financial index was 0.7% up, and that resources index, like you mentioned, the resources companies, they lost about 0.6% today overall. But BHP had a good day. It gained 2%, followed by AB InBev, which finished 1.8% stronger. There was also First Rand finishing 1.5% up. BATS and Anglo also gained 0.9%, almost 1% today. But Naspers lost 0.7% and Prosus 1.2% weaker at the end of the day. Other companies that finished weaker, Goldfields 4.5% down, Equities and Sun International each lost 2.2%. Anglo Gold, Pepco Holdings and Harmony each finished 1.8% weaker, followed by Bytes and Oceana, which each lost 1.3% today. But then back to the good news, Northern finished 5.6% stronger. There was also Quilter, Montauk Renewable Energy, as well as Sibanye-Stillwater, which each gained 2.5%, and AECI, Amplats and Capitec each finished today 2% stronger. On the commodities market, the price of gold is $2,320 an ounce. Silver is sitting at $27.50, platinum $978, and palladium $975. The price of Brent crude is currently $82.90 a barrel. That's more or less $83. And in the rand, similar to how it looked this time yesterday afternoon and throughout most of today, now paying 18 rand 44 for a US dollar, 23 rand 14 for a British pound.
I think we have just lost that connection there. Okay, let's see if we can't connect with them again. But let me remind you, if we cannot, then you can certainly catch the MoneyWeb market update coming up after 6 o'clock. So that's pretty shortly. Right. We did say we will comment about the issue of George and what's happened there in that community in the Southern Cape. Huge concerns about people dying, people not found. So we're going to get to that right after this.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So what a big concern, people dying with the building collapsing and people in hospital, people, patients, and then others unaccounted for. Yeah, I think it is a disaster, and I hope there's better news now as I speak to Leon van Wyk, who's the mayor of the George local municipality. So Mayor van Wyk, appreciate your time talking to you really at perhaps the worst possible chance or time we can talk to you, isn't it?
No problem at all. It's great to be on the show with you. Yes, we've had some good news in probably the last half hour where another 2 people have been extracted from the rubble here, and so that takes us up to 24 people that we've taken out alive. There are 6 fatalities at this stage, so we are still searching for 45, and it looks like we'll probably be taking out extracting another person shortly. Hopefully in the next half hour that will take place. So I think there's slow progress that is being made, but at the same time there's feverish activity on the site now trying to remove loose rubble, in other words bricks and so forth. So a number of conveyor belts have been set up to speed up that process to get them off the site. So there are a number of volunteers also assisting here in this whole process.
Well, I'm glad about. Sadly, 6 people have died. I'm glad you've found a few more people who are living, and we pray that number can increase. Absolutely. It does beg the question right now in terms of, you mentioned volunteers, in terms of what are the processes now? So what is being done, and linked to that is, how much time do you have on your side? Because the key issue here would be to avoid further fatalities, right?
Yes. Look, it's a race against time in any of these type of disasters. In international norms, they talk about first 72 hours is, that's the time in which one needs to undertake the rescues. And so we've now gone past the 24 hours, so, we're now close to 30 hours. And, so that the work will obviously continue through the night and then into tomorrow. And hoping that we are able to extract more people as we go along. But, this type of situation is painstaking. We've got a basement, and then there was a parking at ground level that was on stilts, and 4 floors of a construction above that for the flats, the apartments above them. So all of that is condensed down, and so the big difficulties now are the various floors and those concrete slabs that need to be removed, and they need to be removed very, very carefully so that we don't injure any of the people below that.
Yeah. I mean, key people here are the families. You have the families of those who've passed on.
Sure.
You've got the families of those who are being treated in hospitals, maybe, and then, of course, the families of those who have not been accounted for. Now, I would take it you've had conversations with them. What can you tell us about their sense of purpose and their feelings right now?
Yes, look, I think all of those families are pretty traumatized, and so there is a team involved with doing counseling and assisting them. And we've also asked the interfaith religious fraternity to assist in that process. So various counseling rooms and so forth have been made available there to start assisting those family members who naturally will be extremely concerned as these hours progress, and they don't get news about their loved ones. So, we really feel for them and the difficulties that are being undertaken.
And what type of support is available to them? And I would think there would be different levels of support for each of these groupings, right?
Yes. Look, that's. There are different levels, and additional support staff and counselling staff have been brought in to assist and to help there, and to try and just make this waiting period for these family members a little bit easier. But no doubt, I think whatever one tries to do, it's really going to be difficult for them. So, yeah.
You had a press conference earlier today, I understand, right?
Yes.
What are the key factors that came out of it besides the issues of the numbers of fatalities and recoveries? What else came out of it?
Yes. Look, what we've tried to explain the process that is underway, and then what has also been questioning has naturally been the how come building like this has collapsed, and what we've explained is the process that needs to be gone through in terms of the investigation that would need to take place. So that is being done by Department of Labour, and SAPS are also investigating it. But what the provincial government has also appointed a consulting engineering firm to undertake an independent investigation. And then we also understand that the Engineering Council of South Africa has also launched their own investigation, so that we can get to a clear understanding of what went wrong, because one certainly wants to prevent any similar incident taking place.
Absolutely. Lots of conversation about how the building went up in the first place, and who were the builders or the agents involved in that. And I understand that there was some vagueness about revealing too much. I mean, tell me what happened and why.
Look, one of the roles of the municipality is that the plans get approved, or they get submitted and they get approved. So that was done between December 22 and July 23, when the plans were then approved. And what happens then in a construction site such as this, where you've got a multi-story development, that construction team would then need to have the various engineering and professional persons certainly monitoring managing that whole process. So that would range from architects through to quantity surveyors through to structural engineers and mechanical engineers and so forth that would need to document and make sure that at each stage of that construction process the rules are being followed. So and that those are the matters that are probably at issue now.
Is the contractor being investigated for shoddy service? Is that being one of the issues to be concerned about?
Well, look, I think all of that will now come out of the investigation that takes place, because in the work that gets done, there are engineers that would need to sign off and say, look, okay, make checks to make sure, take samples and do analysis at various points in terms of the work that gets done on concrete and so forth in that whole site, on the foundations, on the pillars that get done, and on the various floors that are being erected.
What the? Can you tell us who the contractors are now? I know it was not said earlier on. Can you tell us now?
Yes, look, it's Neotrends Group is the developer that has undertaken this work, and so they have then used, as we understand it, it's almost a sister company that has been involved in the construction.
Working under them. Finally, is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, I think that's probably the update at this stage. I think it is a feverish activity that is taking place, and I think what we are seeing here and witnessing today is probably certainly world-class activity in the search and rescue that has been undertaken here. And, I think we can be really proud of the team that is working on this exercise. There are 111 rescue personnel that are involved in this whole process.
Which is an impressive number. Let's leave it at that. Mayor Leon van Wyk of the George local municipality. I think that you're spot on. We need champions of in the rescue space, and that is admirable about something that we can do in this country. I'll look at some voice notes. In fact, there's a message from the Kathrada Foundation around the flag. They're saying the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation is dismayed by the election advert of the Democratic Alliance that depicts the burning of the South African flag to put across an election message. The flag is a symbol of hope and of a South Africa striving to transcend the divisions and hurts of their past. It continues, I'm not going to read the whole thing, and suggesting that the DA and all political parties bear the responsibility of not deepening the divisions beyond that which would naturally be there during an election period. This needed to have been a period of contestation for ideas and policy proposals that enable voters to make informed choices. Fear-mongering does the exact opposite of that. Do you buy into the Kathrada Foundation's position? Right, let's wrap up. There's a couple of voice notes that I play around the issue of the media.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to the listeners. I've got a mouthful to say, but I'll summarize it thus. The media is the biggest perpetrator of misinformation and disinformation, and the sooner the media accepts that some of their most prominent people are purveyors of misinformation, disinformation, and biasness. We look at how they report and how they tweet about certain individuals that they do not like. The day the media holds its own accountable, it becomes easier for the rest of us to hold those that are close to us accountable as well. But you can't hold somebody accountable who says, but hey, Karen Mond reported this on News 24 or whoever about Brian Molithi and Majela Koko not maintaining ESCOM and all of those things. Many years later, the guys have been proven correct that they were maintaining ESCOM, but how many people still believe that they were not? You see what I'm saying when I say the media has a big role to play?
Well, the media has a role to play, and I think some media make mistakes. Some people don't make mistakes. It can't just be a complete block, just like we can't accuse everybody in government of being great or being absolutely poor at what they do, isn't it? I mean, that's one. Here's the last one about gadgets.
Hello, Ashraf. This is Dipesh from Pietermaritzburg. I don't really do much grocery shopping online. I prefer to interact with the product in store than rather buying my groceries online. Clothing I buy in shop as well. Maybe gadgets I just buy online, computers and accessories. That's about it. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Well, that's the show. It's been fascinating as always, connecting with you and getting a good sense of the national pulse. It means we do it again tomorrow. Remember, 3 to 6, but you can communicate even now. SFM Radio. You can tag us on the X or tweet it out on the X platform. You can certainly follow me and tweet to me, Ashraf Garda. Use that hashtag, the National Pulse. And let me just say as well, thanks to the team besides me that does so much of the work that you just hear live, amplified on air, and that's Temba Dlamini, KG. Kamogelo, and then Keys, well, they call him Teboho. Keys is what we know him as, and Vusani as well. All of them making up the team. And Phineas is sort of raising his hands as the production expert for the day, so I need to not forget that too. Anyway, it's 6 o'clock. Greg House heads up the news desk. It's his time now. Greg.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, details of developer of collapsed building in Ramaphosa slams DA's election advert. Good evening to you. The Western Cape government has released details of the developer of the collapsed building in George. The apartment building was being developed by the Neo-Trend Group ICE Projects. The Western Cape Premier, Alan Windey, says a probe into the cause has already started. Papers for the development were submitted in 2022 to the George municipality and approved in 2023. The plans consisted of 4-storey apartments, parking in a basement. Meanwhile, rescue efforts will continue into a second night to find the remaining 47 trapped workers. 6 of the 28 people who have been rescued so far have been declared dead. The EFF's Deputy President Floyd Shivambu says police visibility and conducting regular raids in crime hotspots can help alleviate crime levels in hotspot areas like New Brighton in the Eastern Cape. The EFF led a march against crime in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. Shivambu says a proactive approach needs to be employed